Hurling Pod
on Off the Ball
with Applegreen, making every journey better.
Welcome one and all. Skehill put this very nicely when we were in the green room just before we started this. He went, all three of our respective counties are playing at the weekend. None of them lost, and yet none of us are coming out the weekend feeling happy, which I think is a really good way of assessing the weekend that just has been. So what happened in the Championships? We won game in Munster again, proved to be a very important one though. Cork have qualified from the Munster Hurling Championship. Not in the final just yet, which they were saying on GA Plus last night, but Brian Hayes with 7 points. They edged out Waterford in the end. The reigning champions on the cusp of a return to the final, but mathematically not quite there yet because 3 teams could finish on 6. Peter Queally, very unhappy with the 2 black cards that Waterford received during the game. We'll talk about both of them. It also looks unfortunate like Stephen Bennett's summer is over. He had a hamstring injury and then he hurt his knee and had to come off. Looked in quite a bit of distress when he was coming off as well. And it looks like the day share is staring down the barrel of another early exit from the Championship again. Dublin taking a big step towards qualification in Leinster. They won away from home against Wexford yesterday. We wonder where Liam Rush was going to hurl. Turns out it was to try and stop Lee Chin was how he was going to be deployed. Galway surviving a scare in the end to see off Kildare. They were 1-7 to a point down at one stage in that game and were 10 points down approaching half time. And Offaly finally ended their losing run against Kilkenny, which had stretched back to the 1998 All-Ireland final by taking a point from the Cats in Tullamore. 12 successive beatings. It came to an end today with Owen Cahill's point, his 15th of the match in Tullamore. And the Hurling Pod here on Off the Ball is with thanks to Applegreen. They're helping you to relax, recharge, and indeed enjoy the journey ahead. James Skehill, how are you?
I'm very well, gentlemen.
Plenty to talk about, and Paul Murphy, lots for us to talk about here as well.
Yeah,
how are you?
Absolutely. I'm great.
Aside from that, my Waddy update before we even get here. Did you see our good friend, I'm going to call him just Gary from Kilkenny, sent us a tweet yesterday. He found the Motherload in Tesco, which was on sale my Waddy of every single flavour you could possibly get.
Yeah, I saw that. Do you know one thing actually? Kilkenny only has an express Tesco. It's like it was literally it was the last county in Ireland to get a Tesco because people couldn't get over this. Because only I think pretty much every county has a big Tesco, but we have an express one. So may I ask Gary, was it Kilkenny? It was probably Dublin though. Gary's Dublin. So yeah, he probably had the bigger Tesco in Dublin. Probably provided more of my waddy.
Yeah, football and Tesco don't come near us, Kilkenny.
Yeah.
Lots of options. I have not been just yet, and I did buy some knockoff my waddy yesterday, which I feel bad about. I bought the cheaper my waddy from Lidl, which is the squirty one that you get at the till.
Oh no, you can't be that.
Does the job. I had some at lunchtime, but I will go back to the real deal very, very soon. And particularly if my waddy decide that they're going to sponsor us, I'm all over that.
That's like buying fucking vegan meat. Yeah, it just says it's the same thing, but it's not.
I'm sorry. It was an impulsive buy. All right. Some of us don't have the funding to purchase 2 swing sets at the one time. So we decided. Do you know what? I'm gonna very cheaply buy this. I don't think Sophie's bets quite came in from last weekend. There was a wonderful Simpsons meme which was sent to us, which was Lisa and Homer when they go on the wonderful run on Daddy-Daughter Day when they're betting on American football. That could well be Skehill to fund the rest of his garden equipment. But yeah, Sophie's choices didn't do brilliantly. But then again, none of us had a 100% record because none of us were predicting there was going to be a draw between Offaly and Kilkenny this weekend. I think the rest of the games were very, very predictable, even though they didn't play out maybe as we expected. I do want to get Murph's thoughts on this before we dig into the games themselves, because this was, for me, the highlight of the Cork against Waterford game, and it came from his club mate, Richie Hogan. Have a look.
By God, you're not going to win it either as a full-back. Look
Richie.
at that, Richie.
Whoa, I hope we got that. Please tell us we got that.
Richie saw that moment coming. I was like, oh, I need to check which one of the Cork boys tried to take out Richie, or was it me?
Don't
worry.
Yeah,
great hands,
Richie.
We shouldn't have bothered with the demo at all. No. I hope you got that, lads.
Poor old Cadigan there, nearly taken out by one of his former Cork teammates, possibly, because it came from the Cork side of the warm-up that came across. But Richie Hogan, what a paw. And what I didn't notice until I saw a different angle of it later, he actually had the folded-up match programme in his hand. So obviously he dropped it just in time, stuck the paw up, and straight out of the air.
Yeah, it's definitely set up. Had to be set up. There's no way. I couldn't give it to him. But do you know? No, did I tell you I actually thought of it a while ago? Did you ever see like one of the first times there was like I don't even think it was an AI video, but there was a baseball version of that. It was like one of the first videos on YouTube where some woman is interviewing a fella, and it's quite clearly like if you can recognize an AI video, you know this is AI. Like a lad swings the bat, the ball goes flying, this fella catches it. But like, no, in fairness to him, I give it to him because the other side was the sun was probably in his eyes. The sun was down that end. So yeah, it was a good catch. I just hate giving it to him, to be honest, because he just like he's mouthy. Do you know what I mean? Like he'll be on off the ball during the week. You usually send me something, Will, every so often, where you like tag me in something where he's just after mouthing at me, like with Owen Sheehan. It'd be like a Wednesday evening, you're not expecting it, and Richie will just be like, he said one of the days something about, I mentioned that Henry has a fully signed Arsenal Invincibles jersey. Mm-hmm. And Richie didn't believe this, and he said the comment on Off the Ball, is this another Paul Murphy story? Basically meaning is it a lie, like, you know? So the idea that I've come on here and said that was class, it hurts me a little bit, Will. So yeah, but Richie listens, so he's heard all this at some stage during the week.
Indeed. How do you rate the catch before we get into the games there, Skehill?
I'd say it was a hand pass. Was it set up?
So you want to be catching those head height. You know, wasn't traveling. You know, if you catch that in your bad hand, which that was for Richie, it wasn't traveling that fast.
It was coming slow, fairness.
Yeah. If you have time to drop a program and catch it, I mean, sure.
Yeah, it was definitely a hand pass from one of the producers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair point out. Crack of the ash.
Show me ball there, Grace.
My next Twitter handle will definitely be Offaly back. That effect. Yeah, footballers won yesterday as well. Skehill, keep your ears away there for 1 second. But yeah, a good weekend, I would say.
They beat Clare, wasn't it?
They beat Clare, which I was not expecting, down in Ennis as well. So they go in the winner's draw for tomorrow. Jen wondering, is this live? You best believe, Jenny, we are live right now.
What do you need us to prove, Jenny? What do you need us to prove that it's live? Put up the latest newspaper, is it?
Yeah. Very long one here from Barbara, but let's kick things off about what happened to Waterford the weekend. The whole screen is taken up by this. But this is the joy of Facebook, where you can leave quite a lengthy message. Lads, how are Waterford so unlucky? Losing 3 lads to injury in the first half, particularly Bennett, who's probably the best player this year in Ireland. Then 2 black cards, the worst of times, especially the second one, which was with 10 minutes to go when we were level. Obviously, 2 penalties. I think there's a little hard done by, and not to have one at the other end at one point. We're so bloody close, but Munster hurling is a bare piss. It's a good way to kick things off there from Barbara. I suppose the wider record scale you can't really argue against. So I think it's 4 wins since 2017 for Waterford in the group stages. They obviously haven't hurled into June since COVID. So you can't airbrush that out of history. But at the same time, last night, do they have a right to feel somewhat unlucky given the injuries, especially Bennett going off at the time that he did when Waterford were on top in the game, then to lose to the 2 black cards, to concede 2 penalties, and then ultimately to lose a very tight game to Cork? Do you have sympathy for the Dacia after what happened last night?
I do and I don't, to be fair. I'm not trying to be, delivering bad news to the Dacia, but just they put up a good fight. They really did. But these things happen in games with regards to losing players by injury. Now, to lose as many as they did is extremely unfortunate and rare. I don't think we've seen as many being lost in a game, especially in the first half. The black cards, the first one I'm torn on, to be honest. The second one I think is fully deserved. And I can't blame anybody, whether it be a player or the referee, for installing the rule, ensuring it takes place in the game, because that's what they're there to do. If the rule needs to get removed or get changed, or even the punishment with regards to black card, that's a different matter. But the circumstances I was thrown at the referee yesterday, were difficult, but I thought he did a fairly good job, to be fair. And Waterford, they threw everything they had at Cork. The first half they chose to go with the breeze. They were extremely, intense. They had the crowd behind them. I thought Fitzgerald was really good, let's say, for coming over from the back, and things were moving right in the right direction for them. I do agree that the black cards came at a very bad time. And even when Billy Nolan saved the first penalty, which is a great save, by the way, and got it down the field, it was crying out for a score. If you got that score, let's say, you might be able to create a little bit of separation and get the crowd up with you for another bit. Didn't materialise, but that's fine. The second half, then, the second black card was an absolute killer. But that was thrown at them in the game because the foul was committed. And I hate to say it, but it was a black card A, it was a penalty B, and Billy Nolan couldn't get to it. And that created a bit of separation. And then when you have you're down, I was going to say 10 men, when you're down to 14 against Cork and they have the breeze, it's always going to be a very tricky proposition, especially when you don't have your full complement of players. But I was thinking about this all day, Will, with regards to the championship. And I know, because you know yourself now, with the way the Galway Kildare game went, and the Wexford and Dublin, and even the Saturday game last night, they were saying the games weren't of great quality. But what can we do? You know what I mean? I feel like we're going to have this conversation every year. Murph mentioned it actually a couple of weeks ago. For every year we have this conversation about the structure of the championship, about the 4th team in Munster, about how it's such a dogfight in a bear pit. These are the cards we're dealt, folks. I'm sorry. What can we do? And it puts, I suppose, unnecessary commentary towards the likes of us, the Leinster personnel, if you want to call it, because again, we can't do a lot about it, to be fair. I'm
just going to stop you there for 1 second. I'm glad that as a Galway person, you have now embraced the fact that you are now part of the Leinster Championship and you're a Leinster man.
I fucking said that, didn't I? Did yeah.
You did. It slipped out.
I should have said Leinster Championship participants. Okay, I should have said that.
You have learned to love your oppressors. Go on.
I do, yeah, and like it's again, I don't like having the conversations because it's nearly like we're belittling the Leinster Championship and belittling the players who partake in the Leinster Championship, and that shouldn't be the case. It just shouldn't be the case. And again, another point is when I'm looking at Kildare and the good fight they put up yesterday and the potential for them to drop down, which is potential. I hate to see it. That there's kind of a lack of a safety net. So look, I'm not trying to get onto a whole championship restructuring or the championship as a whole, but I just want to throw it out there with regards to the people listening to this podcast and watching us. Please don't throw us about the fourth team in Munster or the championship structure. We can't do anything about it. We talk about it every year. Yes, it's unfortunate, and these hypothetical matches that if Waterford played in Leinster, they're not in fucking Leinster. Okay, they're in Munster. So can we just move on? And look, to answer your question in a very long-winded manner. Yeah, they can feel slightly aggrieved with the first black card. They can. Mm-hmm. Regards to the team they come up against and the quality that was put against them, the result is fair. The result is fair. And yes, the cards they were dealt with injuries. It's difficult to take, but look at that could happen Galway next week. That could happen Cork the week after. Cork had their own injuries, and they were able to get around the right. But yeah, it's tough for Waterford, but they're the cards are dealt. That's what I'll sign off on that.
Look, the viewers are some are being very diplomatic about the way they want to address these black cards. Then there's this, which comes in from Dara Murphy. Thoughts on Waterford being robbed. And some other people are saying, right, give us your thoughts, like David Keelan, on the black cards from the weekend. So, Murph, let's get on these. The two black cards, particularly Waterford-Cork. So the first one, Fitzgerald's one's going to be a costly one, by the way. So unless it's successfully appealed, it's his third black card. So he misses the Limerick game. So that's potentially a blow for Waterford to the double in terms of he was obviously off the field for 10 minutes during the game and now he could potentially miss the full Limerick game. So we'll see what happens. Now, there's an argument that the ball isn't under control at the point that he makes a tackle. I've also seen a wider view that someone had from the replay, which seemed to think that maybe there was enough cover back. For you, black card, harsh, fair. What's Paul Murphy's take on it?
If the wording of it is, not to say if the wording is correct, but if we establish that the wording is that he wasn't in control, that's a yellow and a penalty. So, at the end of the day, they were still going to get the penalty, but the cumulative black card, I think Waterford do have a reason to say that actually, do you know what? Because it's not just a case that was standalone. Even the 10 minutes and being off the field, Cork didn't even actually capitalise on that. But nevertheless, a yellow card and a penalty, I think actually satisfies it. I understand why Sean Stack went with the black because it does look like he pulled him down. On first look, when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's a black card. But then afterwards, when I saw the conversation and people were saying, well, he wasn't in control of the ball, then I think about, well, actually, a yellow and a penalty still gives Cork the goal opportunity, which Billy Nolan saves anyway. And we'll get on to Billy Nolan being off the line, which is another thing we need to talk about. But, just as a point, if people are saying, it was a black card, then we say he walked off the line, which is another offence. Because often things we talk about, I'll come back to this now in a second. We often talk about keeper stepping outside the box. I was watching Clare and Waterford in the first game, and Eibhear Quilligan fully stepped outside the box in one of them. We don't get upset about it because at the end of the day, he's striking the ball 110 yards down the field. What does it really matter? But in terms of a penalty, a keeper stepping out like that does make a difference. But in terms of the black card, having Fitzgerald involved for the Limerick match, it'd be worth a shot for Waterford appealing and saying that should have actually been a yellow because my understanding is by the letter of the law, that was a yellow, not a black, if you're being technical. The second one, I have no issue with. This rule was brought in for the purpose of giving the benefit to the attacker that's running through on goal. And people say, okay, well, there's a defender back. Look, how many times do we see lads cutting along? Look at Mossy Keown's goal when he scored it against Wexford. There was a defender back there. He still scored a goal. He was running in a similar position. He wasn't fouled. He threw a dummy hand pass and scored a goal. It's still, the forward is still in pole position even if there's a defender back. It's not like soccer. So I think in that situation, when, was it Barrett was pulled down? Or was it Conor Barrett was pulled down, I think it was. For the second one. For the second one, anyway, that to me, I was happy with that was a black card.
The Jack Fagan black card. Okay.
Yeah, the Jack Fagan one. Yeah. So that I was happy with that.
Yeah. I think there's an argument that Hayes is kind of going over on the first one as well. I think that one is way more disputable. I think a lot of people were very unhappy with that black card. The Billy Nolan coming off the line thing, because we had quite a few and they're coming in the comments there. But also, I said I'd have a look at the Spotify comments so we don't leave the good Spotify folk out here. Jason Mullins was in contact straight after the game last night. Will, when you're having this week's pod, can you ask James about Billy Nolan coming off his line for the penalty save against Cork? Did the same against Tipperary. He's off his line, isn't he?
He is, of course, yeah. Especially with the second one. because I was watching the first one and I said, how come he didn't dive early? Because some goalkeepers you watch, they'll commit to a side will. So they'll try and guess, which way the striker is going, because the ball is coming at such velocity that you have to nearly guess it, otherwise you're timed out. But when Billy Nolan jumps, he does jump off the line. And the rule, just to be very clear in the rule, you can come off the line when the ball is struck, not when it's lifted. There was a little bit of ambiguity, remember, years ago with Henry Nash and Jimmy Kelly come off the line and Stephen O'Keefe before the ball was struck. That can't happen. You're not allowed to do that. You have to maintain distance, which I think is 20 metres, 21, whatever that line is, 20-yard line. You've got to maintain that distance till the ball is struck. So when he comes off, he jumps forward. He's narrowing the angle by quite a bit. So when I saw the first penalty, I said, he's jumping off by at least 2 yards. So when the ball is struck, he's able to go with the ball, basically. Not guess the striker, he's able to react in time. So it's a foul. Just like we talked about the technicalities around free takers a couple of weeks ago when they're essentially soloing the ball, taking frees. It's kind of, yes, it's a technicality, but if the question I'd have is, if that's, let's say, an All-Ireland semi-final or final, and it's death, do or die. And remember the Cork Limerick game was it last year, the day before, where Hogan had to take a penalty.
Yeah.
So if let's say now Nicky Quaid saves the penalty, but he's a yard and a half off the line, are we looking for a recheck? I am. I certainly am. And I'm GK Union all the way here, sir. Right. But if I'm the strikers team, unfortunately, goalies stay on the line, and that's the job of the umpires too, if you ask me, to enforce that. And the referee should take. Like, the linesman's job is to make sure that the striker doesn't pass the 20-yard line. The referee's job then is to look at both, let's say, from a midsection point of view, with support of the umpires, and they just keep missing it. So the first one was, it didn't have a huge level of importance in the game as it transpired, but as we go on in the championship, and that, I'm fine with the goalie and I'm looking at this, I'm saying, well, Billy Nolan's getting away with it. I'm going to try it straight up. I'm going to go for it and try to get them to do a recheck. Because if he scores it and you're off the line, grand. But if you save it and come off the line and get away with it, chance it. So to round out, will I agree? Yes, it is. Would you call it a foul? Is it infringement? I don't know what you call it, but basically he's breaking a technical rule, right? Yeah, still class. He's still class though.
He is, and again, we gave Nicky Quaid the hype last week, Skehill, on Billy Nolan. Like, there's an argument at this stage he's an all-star contention, even if Waterford don't come out of the group stages. It would take almost a miracle for him to qualify now. But the way he has played in these first 3 games, he's been incredible.
He's been fantastic, and. Who was I talking to? My brother-in-law today asked me, if you were given the All-Star at this moment in time, who would you give it to in the goalies? Seeing as you're such a Quaid fan, I said, I'm giving it to Billy Nolan. Fairness. Across the 3 games, in terms of complete performance for the 210 minutes plus, he's been the best.
Yeah. But
the trouble is, and it's just the nature of our games, folks, that when we get towards the end of the championship, it'll be overridden by the semi-finalists and finalists, which is grand. Obviously, they last longer, which means they must be performing at a very high level. But at least he'll get a nomination, which is a fact. Definitely get a nomination. At this point in time, he will. If he wins it, it's going to be tough from doing it, lads. It's going to be tough. I can't remember. You'll tell me now. Someone's going to tell me, has someone won an All-Star, not just goalkeeper now, but other positions in recent years, been knocked out that early?
Recent years, I don't know. Like, I was looking at a few in the 80s, particularly. Where like you could literally be a one and done. And you could put in a brilliant performance in an opening game, or maybe an opening game in a replay, and you could get an All-Star. It happens less and less now, because I think, understandably, the people who pick this weigh things based on what happens later in the year. And you can even have someone who shoots the lights out. Like, remember Lee Chin 2 years ago, where like he was dominant throughout the round robin stage in Leinster, and you're thinking there's a good chance he could get an All-Star here. And Wexford don't get out of the province, and it's just quickly forgotten, and you pick teams who get from the quarterfinal on. Like, I don't necessarily mind waiting happening later in the championship, but like, you'd be wrong now at this stage to forget what Stephen Bennett's done up until this point and what Billy Nolan has done up until this point. If they're a team that go out early.
Can I ask you now as well, put yourself in the shoes of, is it journalists and media that pick the All-Star as well? I should know this.
So there's a committee that come together that create the shortlist, and the players vote on Player of the Year.
Oh, really? Okay, so
the players vote, but isn't there a thing now where there's like they did something different where the players vote, but like, do you know the way it was always? Let's say if there was 2 players from one county, let's say there's 2 Kilkenny lads and a Galway fella, it was actually probably a bit of a disadvantage to the Kilkenny lads than one Galway fella. Because, like, let's say if I'm from Galway, I might just say, fuck it, I'm going to vote for Skehill. Like, and I'm not going. And whereas the Kilkenny lads might go, oh, I liked TJ or I liked Richie Hogan, and you're a little bit split. So did they not bring in something there where like there's also then like a kind of a weighted thing with journalists? I could be completely wrong. I'll hold my hand up on that one.
I suppose what I'm getting towards, Murph, is if I'll ask you, is that if you fast forward now to at the end of July and the whole media, I suppose angle is towards the winners of the championship. Fine, right? And if you were someone like let's say just theoretically Limerick win the championship, and Nicky has plays fine, plays okay, but his best game was round 2 of the championship. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you give it to Billy Nolan? I'm trying to create a hypothetical circumstance, right? I don't know. Would they have the bravery to give it to him? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, there was. I think actually Seamus Flanagan made a point on Off the Ball during the week where he was saying that if you look at the AFL, for example, and even if you look at the Premier League, they give them out before the season ends. So like the AFL give it out before the final because like the final is. I think like the final is so weighted, let's say towards the All Stars, that if you like mightn't even been nailed down for a 15 as the All-Stars after the semi-final, but you have a stormer of a final, you'll get an All-Star. But at the same time, like you look at the games that Stephen Bennett and Billy Nolan have had stormers in this year, like at the end of the day, if they don't go past, they don't go out of Munster, it's not their fault, and their performances are forgotten about to an extent. Like the only person I can think of, and it's not even in hurling, who that far back won something was Matty Ford in Wexford in football. I think he scored like 114 or something in the game for Wexford football, and he won an All-Star back in like 2005, I would say. Something mad like that. But like that was literally, I don't think they got past the Leinster semi-final that year.
We have a few shouts from the corner from the comments, by the way. But also a very fair point made by David Curley before we forget the penalties. What about forwards who fouled the ball by going over the 21 before striking the ball?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
We said it Hedgehoe against Hedgehoe in league final.
Yeah, same case. It's the exact same case, Will.
Yeah.
And I would agree with some people who've said as well that really the goalkeeper should be allowed to start marching once the ball has been addressed, once it's been picked up. At that point, the goalkeeper should be allowed to go at it.
Well, just to put into context, right? If I'm always trying to come off the line, always.
Of course.
Because when I'm on the line, I'm trying to cover 21 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if I move forward 1 meter, Will, that 21 feet becomes, you might laugh at this, it becomes like 15 feet. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how much I narrowed the angle. And because you're big and arm straight, you can narrow the angle so much more that even the penalty striker has an awful job to get around you. So that's I would class coming off the line, and this is the goalkeeper talking now, coming off the line by a meter or a meter and a half as, I would say, 10 times the advantage of the striker striking, within a foot of the line, definitely. It's weight. So when you're talking about weight, Murph, the weight is well within the goalkeeper's, favour of him coming off the line versus the striker encroaching or going over the line. But what I'm saying is 2 wrongs don't make it right. Both rules should be enforced equally and move on.
Yeah, and they most often aren't. So Dara pointing out that Tony Kelly in 2021 won one after the second round of the All-Ireland series. No, albeit that
wasn't a round robin though.
No, it was a weird year, but at the same time, that's a good one where it was very early on. And Mike has also pointed out that John Live Tip won an All-Star without playing in the championship.
What?
I hard to see it happening again. Apparently he shot the lights out in the league that year.
Jeez, now that's a fair call.
Yeah, that was back in, that's definitely like late 80s, early 90s. Come back at us, Mike, with exactly what year it is. But I remember that being mentioned a few years ago as
that's
a
remarkable.
very strange one.
Do you know?
Fantastic, really. Eamon wants to know, let's go to the other goalkeeper then. Interested to get Skell's take on Patrick Collins' performance at the weekend. I thought he was excellent against Waterford.
Sorry, what I was thinking about there when I saw the name Patrick Collins, some guy came at me during the week saying, why do you just like Patrick Collins so much? I was like, what?
I don't think we've actually heard about him.
Where did this come out of? I said, Well, you said he should have got a hooked against Limerick. And yeah, he should have got a hooked against Limerick, but regardless, Patrick Collins is very good. Very, very good. The saves, I would class the 2 saves he made, one from Desi and the second one from Peter Hogan, as it was a mix of a good save and a poor shot. Now, that's not trying to be just dismissive of Patrick's efforts, because they came at a nice height, but you have to save them. You have to parry them away in such a way that you can't get a rebound. So he did very, very well. Open play was good. Puckouts, I was surprised they went short so much. They went short an awful lot, which kind of looks like it's a bit of a change in tactic. Because I was down at the league final that time when they played Limerick, and they were kind of going half and half, and the long was kind of not really working for them, but they were avoiding a whole section of the pitch. And that was Kyle Hayes' wing. And then yesterday when they went short, they went an awful lot short to the 2 positions. So it's like they're adapting somewhat, and self-educating, you could say, after games. So he was very solid, very good, and saved what needs to be saved. So that's what you need from a keeper,
I guess that game in a second. Alex Rowe, don't jump the gun whatsoever. Last time that Offaly drew with Kilkenny, they won the All-Ireland, which was 1985. And last time they beat Kilkenny, they won the All-Ireland in 1998. So a bit like Skehill earlier this year, the league final's in the right place. Boom. All the stars are aligning now at this stage. I agree with Alex entirely. 2 more wins, Offaly get to 5 points, get through and score in difference. Dublin lose their last 2 games and Watch out, Cork, Limerick or Clare or Tipperary when it comes to the All-Ireland quarter-final. Right, okay, that's enough on the All-Stars. Let's get to Cork then. Because what do you think, Murph, of this idea that Cork maybe haven't been at their absolute brilliant best in the first 3 games, but they've done enough and they've now put themselves in this position where they've already qualified, avoid defeat in one of the last 2 games. They're 100% into the Munster final. You could pretty much write them into it now already. Where is your take on Cork now that we've seen them 3 times, and particularly the take on their comeback win last night?
Yeah, like I'm still a big fan of Cork in terms of what they have at their disposal, what they bring to the championship. They play a great brand of hurling. They have a deep panel as well. One of the things that's ringing true for me, or that is just kind of sticking in my head after the weekend, is a lot of people are saying that how unlucky Waterford are that Stephen Bennett gets injured and black cards. And I said, yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, the Cork have had to absorb their injuries as well. Rob Downey's gone, Kieran Joyce. Like your centre back and your full back are gone, and they had to readjust. Tommy O'Connell goes to wing back. Another lad who's having an absolutely mighty year. In terms of a fellow who wasn't established up until now, he's been playing midfield, has been outstanding, moving to wing back, and he covered unbelievable ground. He was absolutely outstanding. So their ability to do that was great. The one thing I'd say about Cork's performance last night, I suppose 2 things. Welsh Park's not easy to go to. We saw Limerick being beaten there in the first round of the championship, or first round of the league for Limerick, I think it was, or was the second round overall? I can't remember anyway, but it was Waterford's first match, if I'm correct in saying that.
Right, Murphy.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, and like, so we've seen teams, and we saw Tipperary then as well. Like, I mean, Welsh Park is a tough place to go, and particularly at this stage where Waterford are fighting for their lives, really. So it was always going to be a dogfight. So to go there and win, like, that's all that matters for Cork. And we look at other teams who aren't getting results, and we're saying you should be winning those. Well, Cork are winning those games, and that's all they're concerned about. The one thing about it though was that sometimes, and I think we've seen a bit of this with Cork as well, is that when they go and play Limerick, they really bring their levels up in terms of in the championship. We saw that. Like, they came to the pitch of the game, they were really intense, played a fantastic Limerick team, and we saw really what Cork are capable of. But in the first half, I felt against Waterford, I saw them carrying the ball. They're brilliant at carrying the ball, but I felt they didn't carry it up far enough. They were kind of striking from deep, which is something I think we would have mentioned Kilkenny quite a bit on, that they were striking from their own 45 when we knew Waterford would sit back. In the first half, it appeared to be a case that I think the wind was kind of changing a little bit in Welsh Park, but it seemed to be that were Cork playing into the wind a small bit in the first half, or was it?
Yes.
Or was it? Yeah, I think they were playing into it. Yeah, because I did see a few shots kind of getting pulled, but I was still surprised that they were striking from so deep and they were playing against that wind, because they have great lads at carrying the ball. They have loads of legs. They have loads of energy. They have plenty of lads to come off the bench. But Waterford were always going to sit that little bit deeper, and by striking the ball early, it gives the Waterford backs time to get their shape, get onto the ball. And if the full forward line as well, for example, now they did get a bit of space sometimes at the full forward line to deliver to them, but not all the time. So I think there was a little bit of caginess with Cork at the start. Now, in fairness, they did what they had to do, and they took their chances. Like, even another thing that we kind of didn't talk about, like Connolly following in, like Brian Hayes, Sean Stack could have probably let that go on a small bit further. Connolly pounces, and you would have had a goal there, which again, it's kind of something that's been lost in because of black cards and because of injuries and all that sort of stuff. But look, in general for Cork, I have to say, like, I thought the back line functioned really well, considering they're after losing 2 big players from that. They were able to reshuffle really well. And I think then, like, you see Harrandy coming off the bench, for example, as well, gets a point at a really important time. We saw when Tipperary were down there, and one of the things we said the week on that podcast, when Tipperary were carrying the ball out, they were 3 points up and they struck it long. You look at Cork carrying the ball out at the end of the match where they were looking for a score. They carried it really well and didn't automatically look to strike and deliver it in. They were looking for the best option. So, like, small things like that, they're small margins, but when you were looking to turn a 3-point lead into a 4-point and close out the game, that's huge things. So I just thought, look, again, we look at Kilkenny and Offaly, and you're there going, Kilkenny need a result from that. Offaly fought really well, but Kilkenny weren't able to go and get a win. Whereas Cork are down in Welsh Park, and they're able to go and do what's necessary to go and win. That's a great trait to have in the team. So really impressed with them. I still don't think they've hit their heights. I don't think anybody has says that they have at this stage. But at this stage, you're in Munster and you're 3 out of 3. You're as good as, I know mathematically they say they're not in the Munster final yet, but they're as good as the Munster final. And having bet your arch rivals Limerick, having beaten everyone in front of you, that's a great place to be in. And I think, and straight away again afterwards, I find it interesting. Like, they're asking Ben O'Connor again about the hype train. it kind of seems to be that Cork is the only county where people are like cautious about the hype train. Like, I mean, if Clare were 3 out of 3 going for Munster final, I don't think they have that thing. But I think because maybe people felt last year got a little bit carried away, and we saw maybe Ben O'Connor at the start of the year being proactive about trying to balance that. Well, they're now 3 from 3, and if it's funny afterwards where, you know, any of the interviews, and I get it, I fully get it, that the players are like, no, we're only focusing on each game, we're not listening to the outside and all this stuff. Absolutely, I completely understand it. But again, we're getting to that stage now where they're 3 from 3, and I think people will just start talking. That talk will start to seep through. So they'll have to manage that, and they'll have to stay performing.
Do you think, Murph, the hype train, the reason I suppose, didn't the hype train pick up ferocious speed at a woeful rate last year? It's because it came on. It's because it came on so fast.
Yeah.
And next thing, there was just a sea of red everywhere, and it was all over the media. And in the Killer song, it just got out of control.
And when you think back on it now, like, I mean, the dust hadn't settled really. Like, it's only this year when you look back. If you look after the league final, they win the league final, and sure, as that stage, Paddy Power's paying out. That does you no good whatsoever.
Not a bit. No.
But then when you go and you beat Limerick in the Gaelic grounds on their turf, now you think, right, we've broken a hoodoo. They don't have another real match in anger. Like, Dublin didn't lay a hand on them in the semi-final. So it's really, in a lot of ways, it was nearly a vacuum between then and the All-Ireland final, which again, like, you want to stay under pressure. You want to stay tested and stay being focused on games. So when you look back at the year, like, they would have loved either for Dublin to put more of a hand on them in that semi-final or to play another team in that semi-final.
But that's what that's why I'm looking at yesterday's performance, and it wasn't the most fluid Cork performance that we've seen in the past, and they didn't shoot the lights out and score 6 or 7 goals, But there was 2 things I noticed yesterday. One was you mentioned there, Murphy, about the Tipperary approach in the dying moments of their Waterford game.
Yeah,
it didn't have calmness, which is surprising when you consider they're champions. But Cork's last 10 minutes yesterday was fully calm. I know. Look, come here. There's physical hits going in the game, but you know what I mean by calmness. Making the right decision when it's easy to make a wrong decision. And the top 6 inches, let's say, when the games are going 100 miles an hour and the clock is ticking down the way, and the gap is very small. When you can maintain calmness and keep those decisions operating at a very high level, that's a great sign of the team. And then after the game, you heard Brian Hayes using the word resilience. Yeah. So it's obvious that they had their issues after the league final. It was very well documented that they were poor, and it was going to be a tough, fortnight for them to bounce back. And he kept saying it just showed the resilience of the group that were able to come back and execute today. Because Walsh Park is tough. It is hard. We played down there. It's tight. The crowd on top of you. Lovely place to play, mind you. But the Waterford team used it as a strength. And so if they use it as a strength, it's your job then to try and nullify that and not provide it as a strength. Because above all teams, I always say it, Clare and Waterford, those 2 teams, when the crowds get behind those two teams, those respective teams will respond in kind to a level that no other team does, to be honest, right? So that's why I'm impressed with Cork yesterday. Yes, they didn't score 425, 430, but they came through, and like Man United back in the day, they won playing, I won't say bad, but not at their best. And if you keep winning, it's all about getting the next round, keep momentum going. And what will happen in the latter day of the championship, is what's important. What happens today or yesterday, not important really.
Well, the reality is, they've beaten the league champions, they've beaten last year's All-Ireland champions, and they've gone to win in Walsh Park. Yes, that's pretty decent. Put it down on paper, and now they probably hold Clare's destiny in their hands when it comes to the last round of the championship as well, depending on what happens this week with Clare and Tip, which we'll talk about that game in Semple Stadium, which we had a feeling a few weeks ago was going to be crucial. Looks like it is. It's going to be a big kingmaker when it comes to who comes out of this province. Catherine making a fair point there. It looked like they were electing a new pope in Waterford yesterday. Yeah, it was a slight distraction.
Crazy scenes.
That smoke seemed to get heavier and heavier and heavier as the game went on as well. And I was glad at the end of the game, Ashton O'Reilly said he was able to give that announcement that they said that the fire brigade were putting out the fire. Because even a few times during the game, it was Noel Connors, I think, was referencing it in the commentary. He was like, I think at one point he goes, well, Brian Hayes is the one who really started the fire here. But the fire brigade are next door trying to put out a fire at the same time. Commentary. But it picked up. And I think there was concerns it was an asbestos fire, I think, when there was talk about it today. So thankfully, everyone is okay. Also, someone else pointed out, Offaly can get to 6 points. You are correct. They've got 2 draws. So they've got 2 games to go. So they do have a chance of getting to 6 in and of itself. Big claim here from the Rubes. Brian Hayes, William Buckley remind me of Ray Cummins and Shawnee Leary back in the day. The big lad, small lad combination. You stick Hayes in there as well. You got Connolly obviously up there, doing damage as well.
But if we're drawing physically from comparisons, fair enough. But like in terms of what either pair have achieved, there's a bit to go yet.
They do.
Ray Cummins, come on.
Do you know,
They do, but-
one of the things, sorry to go across
go on.
one of the things I noticed with Brian Hayes, and I noticed it yesterday, I think forwards have to, it's almost like they have to do a stint of really performing really well till defenders start giving you that yard where they're nearly afraid to go in on you. Like we see it with Gillan, where people are afraid to go in on him because he'll turn you. I was looking at Brian Hayes yesterday, and whoever was on him at any given time was, if he's going towards the sideline, they were happy enough like not lunge and let him get the ball in his hand, because the prospect of lunging in and him just manhandling you off and running through you, I just think was too much of a threat. And I just think it's a stage now, like he's so consistent. He was outstanding yesterday. And even as well, when you look at late in the game, he was back in his own 45. He was abandoning, listen, I know I'm a marquee forward, getting back to help lads. And just if you look at a few of his scores as well, ball goes in, wins it hard, wins it, has a look, sees he has a yard, and instead of maybe forcing the issue, bangs it over the bar, resets. And I just think his consistency is something. We talk about his physicality and all that. He's been mighty for them over the last couple of years, and it's like he's just in a flow state now. Whereas like fling a ball into him whatever way you want, and he'll make it stick at the least, you know. But yeah, full credit to him. He was outstanding yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scale. I mean, Hayes, absolutely incredible. We caught up with him off the ball after the game. Stephen Gleeson was talking to him again. He's very grounded about where they're going for the year. It seems everyone is kind of singing off that hymn sheet, particularly since Alan Connolly saying they were going to win it all. There's real humility about the interviews that we're getting from the Cork bunch now at this stage. But for him, 7 points, caused danger all night, was very effective as a ball into the forward line. Obviously wins the penalty, which results in the first goal as well. I saw someone there, I think it might have been Loan for President, whose name I always love, in the YouTube comments, had said, is there now too much of a dependency on Hayes this year? I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think the Cork forwards are chipping in quite well, and Fitzgibbon, when he finally got around the shackles of Fagan, popped over a few good points in that kind of hybrid half-forward midfield role as well. Are they too dependent on Hayes, or what's your take on how that forward line's operating?
Check it out, that was Cork's third championship game, and including the league final as well in this. Would you have rated Brian Hayes in the top three forwards in terms of performance over the last two games? Before yesterday? No. The answer is no, he wouldn't. He didn't shoot the lights out. He wasn't as much of a threat in the first two games as he was yesterday. Yesterday he was awesome. He was imperious. He couldn't miss yesterday, and he was an outball. He was scoring points off both sides. He was a nightmare for the Waterford defence, left and right. Excellent. But in terms of the first two games, William Buckley, I think, got man of the match in one of them, didn't he, Murphy? William
Buckley got the one in Thurles there too. Yeah. He
got, so that's him performing unreal. Darragh Fitzgibbon has been unreal at wing forward. I don't think there's been a dependency on him at the minute. I think there's just a great bunch of options in that Cork forward line that they can first interchange between lines and positions in lines, and then when one lad's hot, the other guy is supporting. So like next week, in theory, you could have someone like Shane Barrett extremely hot, Connolly the week after hot. So dependency, I think the way you should ask that question is, will there be dependency on Brian Hayes for Cork to win Ireland? I think he's going to have to perform very, very high. If he performs at a high level and maintains yesterday's level, they're going to be very hard to beat, of course, because we'd expect that of, like last year, Murphy, John McGrath with regards to Tipperary, Aaron Gillan when he's going well for Limerick, Tony Kelly and Shannon Donlan in that bracket when they go well for Clare, etc. So the same thing with Brian Hayes. If Cork are to win, they need him, operating at a very high level. And I made the statement last year, even before the final took place, that he was my hurler of the year. But that Ronan Maher and others did such a good job in the final, it pulled them out of that bracket. So that's what it does to you when your team doesn't, go all the way, I'm afraid. So I think, yes, there is a dependency on him to perform extremely high if Cork would go up the steps.
Yeah. That's a fair thing to say though as well. But just the other thing I was thinking is that, often I think when a player is consistently involved in games, like you were saying, Skehill, he may not be shooting the lights out, but he's always involved and he's always making plays. But then if you look at William Buckley might be man of the match against Tipperary, but then might perform maybe in the next match, which is fine, because Waterford might look at him and go, lads, we need to lock this fella down. And if they're successful, which will happen in games, can happen to any team, where a forward is a little bit more quieter because an opposition team focus on him. But Brian Hayes, for example, he just seems to constantly be involved. So I think then what happens is it almost appears as if they're reliant on him, but they're not. He just keeps performing and keeps being involved in games. Whereas you might see Shane Barrett shooting the lights out one day, quiet the next day, which will naturally happen in games when you focus in the forward. But Brian Hayes, like Gillan, people haven't really managed to tie down fully, except, like you said, the final last year, Tipperary did a great job on him. So I just think what we're seeing with Hayes is that he has a great ability to be involved, even if he's not shooting the lights out. He's still making plays and causing a hassle.
But can I ask a question about him, Murph, as a back yourself?
Yeah.
Do you think it's nearly borderline impossible to go toe-to-toe with him, one-to-one?
Do you know what I was... go on.
I'm going, just the second part of the question is I'm going back to a bit like we were talking last week about, excuse me, Clare and Limerick with regard to there's a huge dependency on the lads outside you, midfield beyond, not to give the ball to Brian Hayes. You know what I mean? That you need your Kilkenny defenders to nullify out there because I don't want this to be a 7-13 Brian Hayes or else I'm cooked. You know?
Yeah. No, that's fair. I knew when you were asking the question, I was going to be answering it in a certain way because one of the thoughts I have, and I can't remember what game I was watching. I was just looking at the big lads, your Peter Duggans, your Brian Hayes, all this stuff, and it's still that point that's I think it's fair to say across the board in hurling. Like the big lads get mauled, and the things you can do on a big fella if you're defending them, they get mauled. And the things you can do on a big fella that you can't do to the smaller players. I'm not saying like the tiny lads, but like the lads who are of normal height. So like if I'll be straight out, if someone said to me, "Listen, you have to mark William Buckley or mark Brian Hayes," I go, "I'd rather mark Brian Hayes because I'm going to get away with more." That's just being straight out. Like as in, if a high ball is coming down, I can use full force in terms of going to block that ball. If he's trying to go around me, I can stand up fairly tall because he doesn't get as much of the breaks as another player would. So what you're saying there, how would you go about marking him? To be honest, you could just throw the kitchen sink at him. And like that's I think what you have to do anyway. Like physically, you can throw everything at him. Whereas if you were marking a smaller fella and you threw everything at him, most likely you're going to foul him, and most likely the referee will lean on the side of that you're fouling him. Whereas if you're marking Brian Hayes, what can you do? You can do everything within the rules to him. You can maul him. Like bar pull him down like we saw at the weekend. But like if you're going up competing on a high ball, Brian Hayes has the reach. Like if I mark at him, he has the reach on me and everything. So I'm lengthening the hurl out and I'm going for a block at the highest possible point because I don't have to win the ball, but he does. So like all those things come true. Whereas if I'm marking a smaller lad, most likely they're going to pop the ball in front of him. You're running after him. He shimmies and he's like, we saw one yesterday, Tommy O'Connell. I feel sympathy for Tommy O'Connell. Can't remember the Waterford player. But the Waterford player grabbed Tommy O'Connell's arms and went down. They got a free in the 21. It was in the first half. Tommy O'Connell did not foul him. But the referee saw a bit of benefit of the doubt there. Small, normal-sized players, if you want, will get that. If Brian Hayes did that, I don't think he was going to get it because I just don't see like a player like of Tommy O'Connell's size, albeit I know they're on the same team. I'm just using an example. Tommy O'Connell goes in and tackles Brian Hayes like that. I don't think the referee buys it. I don't think the referee thinks that, Brian Hayes is being pulled down here. Do you know what I mean?
I have to ask you a question. Sorry. Sorry, we'll not for hijacking the podcast here.
It's fine. Makes my job an awful lot easier, Skehill, when you ask all the questions. So fire away, my friend.
So, Murph, in your head, would you rather mark Brian Hayes or a William Buckley?
Oh, Brian Hayes. All day. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because you can keep him close quarter to you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like the way I would put it, and I still see it even in club games at the moment, whereby if Brian Hayes wins the ball, let's say he wins the ball outside you and he takes you on, you can use a fair amount of force tackling him and it'd be unlikely that you'll get a free. If you have a small fella marking you and he'll get the ball and he'll turn and look you in the eyes and start running and start throwing the hands in the air and start doing whatever, and like invariably the referee will go, I think that's a free, and blow it, and you're just going, I can't, like, and now you maybe give him a half a yard because you're like, Jesus. So it's if a smaller lad wins the ball, it can often be more dangerous than the likes of a Brian Hayes because you might get away with a bit more. And that's not to be sounding like, lads are going out sledging fellas ranted, but for me, I just found that was always the case. Like,
Jenny is obviously a true connoisseur of our content when she says, "Well, you kept Limerick at number 2 after last weekend because Cork didn't play. Will Cork stay at number 1 on the back of that performance?" I would say tune into the power rankings this coming Wednesday. We're recording them on Tuesday. I think
it's very hard to look past Cork being at number 1, isn't it?
I think it is, isn't it? 3 wins out of 3 have already beaten Limerick.
Cork have won. Cork are now 2. Limerick, I've seen enough for Limerick to go back to 1.
Will Kilkenny tumble? Will Offaly go from 9th to 8th or 7th? Tune in on Wednesday. I think they will. I think they'll have to be changed there. I think Wexford will be tumbling down to second bottom. That will be the one spoiler I'll give you. I don't know if a whole lot can change to the top. Like, does Kilkenny's loss, and by all means, do my work for me in the comments if you like. Does Kilkenny's draw? What is Kilkenny's loss? Kilkenny's draw today. Does that put them below what we saw from Waterford against Cork, where Waterford would rise above Kilkenny? Would that be a fair drop or a foul drop? And should Wexford be below both Dublin and Offaly? I think they're the real questions. I think, in fairness to Cork stay top. There's absolutely no reason after they've won 3 games in a row to drop them. A little bit further up, we are preempting here slightly, but I did like that there were 2 comments that were almost linked, and they were all about avoidance, really. It's a weird day, maybe even a cold day in hell, when a Tipperary supporter is celebrating an Offaly result. But MCR, 1910, Offaly, on Offaly. Watch Murph dodge all the hard questions about them.
Yeah, Murph.
Obviously, so watch out, Murph.
Haven't even been asked yet.
No. It's preempted, right? And then We've got Facebook user sharing, which is going on at the moment, to also try and shame Murph for avoidance, which is entirely linked. And this one comes from Sinead Ryan, but not actually from Sinead Ryan. Will you ask Paul to start responding in Killian's stag group? P.S. Tell him not to forget his hurl, because we'll be having a few pucks in Carlow. This comes in from Martin, who's using his wife's Facebook. So it's got to the point that you're avoiding the WhatsApp group, that he has to log in as his wife to go onto a live stream to get you to respond in the WhatsApp group.
First of all, right, Martin's a coward, right? So Kildangan man. Right. Coward. And I remember just seeing him. He just invariably will just fire shots at me. So we were down. So that's my brother-in-law for his stag in September, if I'm correct in saying August, September. I haven't responded to the group yet. You can, of course. Can we come? Absolutely come. Yeah, absolutely. It's in Carlow. So more than free to come down.
And I'm not bringing a hurl. Who the fuck brings a hurl to a stag?
You might want it. There's going to be a lot of tip lads here, and they literally they'll be fired.
To defend myself, is it?
well, I tell you, the first time we came across him, the first time we met, it was my brother-in-law's birthday, and I walked out of the room, and basically they all asked Aideen, like, is it all right if we go in heavy on him now, if we just start hopping off him or whatever? And like she was like, yeah, but like don't get upset if he goes in twice as heavy on you afterwards. So we had a fair. When I say fair, we had a very, in terms of. We kept it between the ditches, slagging match. Yeah, all in good fun.
So I gather from that we were invited.
I think we are. And in terms of invites, before we start rocking around the other games here, as we get to minute 46, Damien Cowell wants to know, any word on whether Skehill is going to go to EP pod this year?
First of all, what's EP?
Electric Picnic. Remember last year you couldn't go, you had a wedding on, I think?
Right. Second of all, okay, now we've said that. When's EP on?
Last week of August, first week of September, always that type of territory. I'm not sure of the exact date, but that weekend, isn't it?
And are we going as a bit of a trifecta here, we are?
Well, Flanagan, Shane Flanagan stepped in for you last year, remember?
Okay, he may step out, so.
He may step out.
Yeah.
Poor Flanagan missing out on his weekend trip to go along. Are there any Skehill family predictions for this week? I think the bad news on this one, Dion, is that we had the Skehill family join us just before the pod.
Yeah, we had.
And they were all sent off to bed.
Because, you know, what I thought was a lovely little act last week, it caused major consternation in our household, especially as the eldest girl was on TV, Will. So then the other two girls wanted to get on. That's why they just say hello to Will and Paul before the pod started. Sophie is mad to make this a regular occurrence in the podcast.
And I was hoping that's what we do.
Yeah, but it's now, it's past bedtime. So last week was quite convenient because it was a 6 p.m. start. There will be in the future, don't worry. Will be. There'll be a place for her.
Fair enough. Fergus, and this is all people trying to get Skehill now to play Galway down. Looks like it might be Galway's year. You know, young team looking good. And then Crackety asked straight out there saying, this is not Skehill bait, which means it is Skehill bait. But can we talk about Galway being in the long grass? They look very good when they feel like it. So that brings us very nicely around to Galway against Kildare, doesn't it? I'll tell you what, that first half, they didn't feel like it.
No, and, you know, we've often gone through these type of games, Will, in the past, where, like, no disrespect, you play teams, I'll be straight up about it. We would have played, let's say, the likes of Westmeath, Laois, and where you go into these games and you know, like, that you have a better team with them. On your day, if you both reach your heights, you're still 10 points better. You just know that, right? But the trouble is, and same in the public here in Galway, is that if you win by 20 points, Will, there's problems. If you allow them to make it a close game, there's problems. It's kind of a loser situation. But I'm coming away with a glass half full situation here because, yes, it wasn't the most complete, polished performance you'd like, but they still learned something. They still learn that they have to show up every day, that they can't allow it to be like a bit, they can't go into games, you know, sleepwalking, thinking it's going to be a cakewalk. They have to show up every day. I think they learn things defensively. I think they learn things what I liked is that they kept their game plan. Sometimes when you go into games and things aren't working for you, you refer back to nearly bad habits. So they kept trying to do what they wanted to do. And I just think it was a case of execution for some of the part in the first half. And then what happened in the second half was, yes, the conditions helped. And then they opened up. That was it. So it's I don't know, can you touch on it too much from a technical perspective? I think we didn't execute as well. The intent was there, of course, but just we're a small bit below par. And I'd say on Tuesday, even come the training, there'll be a few choice words in terms of standards, because like what was expected nationally, and within Galway as well, let's make no mistake about it, was to hit the ground running there against Kildare, keep things moving, and make it a comfortable victory. And it wasn't that. We didn't hit the ground running. Kildare did. Were full value for their their half-time lead. I thought it should have been more, to be honest. I thought it should have been at least 13 or 14, but nonetheless. And Galway came out and then just ground them down. And it wasn't even the case that there was a major tactical change. It was just an uplift in levels, if you know what I'm trying to say. But that was pace, execution, running with the ball, directness. Subs made a great impact, as we can tell. Tom Munn, it's good to see as well that we missed a couple of guys because of the Trinity Championship. You put in some more members of the team and then add in more substitutes, and you keep raising the levels as the game goes further on. So if that game kept going on another 10 minutes, the gap would get further and further, etc. So I'm not content. You're kind of glad to come away with 2 points. I don't believe we suffered any injuries. There's loads to work on as well. And it's not a case that we're in the long grass. It's just that we've an awful long way to go. Now, whether that's going to be this year or next year, I don't know, but I'm all for the present. I'm all for the present. I'm not going to start the hype train. The train is still on the tracks yet, Murph, okay? Before you start using the hype train, I'm not going to do that. And again, I'll say the same thing in Galway. We're not feeling it, Murph, at the minute. We're not feeling like in the way Cork are far more advanced than us at the moment in their journey than we are. But when the hype train starts, I'll be the first one to tell you, and I'll conduct it. Okay, but right now, chill out. We've a long way to go, and 2 more games to come. So, come here. What I'm looking to see straight up is we want fucking 5 victories in the Leinster final win. That's it. And if that's not a hype train. That's just absolute reality. Galway. That's what they expect now. We can't let Kilkenny win another Leinster final. Simple as that. We just can't. Like, I'm sick. I've lost numbers every time. I ask you every week, Murph, how many you have in a row. I forget every week because there's so many. It could be 7 or 8 this week. I don't know what it is. So, whatever happens this year, we talk about Ireland's whenever, but it's win the 5 games in Leinster, win the goddamn Leinster final. That's just all bets. That's where all our bets are. It's there. So whether it's against Kilkenny, Wexford, Dublin, Offaly, don't give a shit. But come away with the Leinster Cup. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think Hectic Martyr has summed it up very well there, which is that Kildare were very good and Galway were off it. And particularly first half, Galway were really off it. Like, I was quite surprised. To be honest, I missed the start of the game, and then I flicked the stream on. I think, like a lot of people, they heard what the score was, and I saw that Kildare had the early goal, and then it 1-7 up on the board. I thought, right, I need to flick this on and watch it. And then I was thinking, right, the longer this goes on and the longer they stay in it, this is going to give Kildare more and more belief that they can get over the line. And actually, it's one of those, if you only see the full-time score in this, it's really not reflective, because I think Galway won the last 10 minutes 8 points to 2, and obviously got 3 of their goals in the second half. So you might see that and go, 9-point win, geez, Galway are up a big total, it's 4-22. The reality is that Kildare were in the game a lot more than that. And the sickening part about all this is that you've had, I think, visible signs of progression from both Kildare and from Offaly, right? And the reality is that one of Kildare, Offaly or Wexford is going down to the Joe McDonough for next season.
Yeah.
And I think for Kildare particularly, if it was to be them, because they're in a difficult enough spot here, they have to go to Kilkenny the next time where Kilkenny need a result, and then they've got Offaly in the last game where they're going to be fighting for their lives. They're probably odds against at this stage to stay up because Wexford have already got a win over them. The reality is that for Kildare, they'll get a lot more from the 50-odd minutes of really good hurling that they put in against Galway than they would going back to the Joe McDonough and trying to reset and get back up to Leinster again.
Agreed. But do you not think I don't think it's actually treated as an important issue. I'm talking about now in Croke Park here, unless it happens a big team. When I say the big team, you know what I'm talking about now, Will. The historic 4 in Leinster, which would have been Dublin, Wexford, Kilkenny and Galway. If in time it happened one of those, that's when there'd be major cry for change, because they'd be classing it as I'm not trying to dismiss Offaly here, Will, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Dismiss away. It's been 20 odd years, so go on.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to dismiss them, but they'd say, okay, hurling stronghold, potentially losing them. There might be a bit of restructuring here. But I agree with you. Like we would have said here this year, last year, when Willie Maher was on, exposure is very, very important. Now, I understand teams have to compete, and we're not about, this is not an inclusive environment, it's exclusive. So the teams who are in Joe McDonough want to get up, absolutely. And the teams in the Lee McCarthy want to stay there. So it's not exactly inclusive, everyone partake. But the more teams we see come forward, the Kildares, or these like the Downs who are making strides forward this year, the more we get them teams moving forward, the better it is for a game as a whole. But again, that's not for us to talk about, because it's a structural issue. We're performance based here, Murph. We're talking about the performance they put in front of us. We'd love to see every team partake in a more long term. But then, as we said before, it dilutes championships if you start increasing teams. So just the way the relegation is at the moment, unless you get a major restructuring of the championship as a whole, and I'm talking nationally, Munster and Leinster combined, it's just going to be the case. And yes, it's unfortunate. And the more than we have the Munster fourth team debate every year, we come back to this, Will, every year about the Lee McCarthy and Leinster and losing a team. So it's unfortunate. But can I just touch on one more thing about Galway?
Yeah, go for it. Well, someone wants to talk about the Seps and the wheeling goal. So go on, give us that first.
He overcarried. Yeah, but again, it was.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a case.
I don't know if it was 10 steps. I saw 10 steps when claimed, but he definitely overcarried. That was my take.
When I counted myself during real time, I counted 8. But I also saw he was being fouled. So it was a case of where a referee's giving advantage. He's going through on goal, so what do you pull first? We've seen this time and time again in different types of fouls. Like 2 wrongs don't make it right.
The advantage shouldn't be overstepping though. This happened a few weeks ago. Remember, was it the Limerick game we were watching as well, Limerick Clare, and we're thinking like, really, you should give the free then. If the foul happens, give the free. Don't allow a guy to walk with the ball in his hand.
You're right. That's why you can't. That's why 2 wrongs don't make it right. And look, you do know that he had passed the ball up to Hurls. The Hurls pulled out of his hand, so it's a foul initially. The referee gives advantage. Pull it back. This is from a goal, man. Pull it back. And look, that's at a time where I was screaming for a goal because we needed it badly. But again, we can't have a situation where you're allowed to foul a person and commit a foul to progress just because the advantage is given. So that has to stop. But on the Galway situation,
go on.
Was that this is for everyone. Look, the hardest thing to do in sport is switch mindsets. You know what I mean? So if you come in a kind of I would say without vicious intent of winning the game, you're going to get caught. So if you play someone yesterday at a slightly higher level than Kildare, Galway could lose that game. Because they didn't come in with the intent they had against Kilkenny. So you go back a couple of weeks ago, they came with intent in that game. And they showed great application. So when you don't have that every day, there's a problem. So teams like Limerick, they don't let that happen. We haven't seen that now too many times. The only time you can really put your finger on that happened was probably last year's semi-final against Dublin. Or it was quarter-final, was against Dublin. But the good teams, they keep that ruthless streak going every single day. Every day. You know, Kilkenny more from your time, but they're playing whoever. It was go out to hammer them. Simple as that, every day. And so that's kind of the streak that you see in our Ireland teams where they, when they're, they're going somewhere, is that they treat every team with the same level of respect because they're more focused on themselves to go in, put their stamp on the game, bury everyone and move on. And that's the only one thing, a little nugget I'd say about Galway yesterday, that would not concerns, but you'd have to say that's an issue going forward, that no matter who you play, the 2 games left, yes, you're most likely qualified, I would say, but be ruthless and hammer the hammer. So that's my last point in Galway.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we're not disagreeing, by the way, for all the people that were unhappy with the steps. I think there were plenty of them. And also a lot of people are pointing out, we will get round to Dublin in a second, that Dublin have only beaten Kilkenny once since the 40s, and that was the 2013 Leinster. So they've a bad record. Apparently so, yeah.
Some of these stats I hear are crazy. And you're like, that can't be right.
Wait, in Championship, was it? Dublin hadn't beaten Kilkenny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another one. Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen again, just purely from an Offaly perspective. Hopefully Kilkenny can just round off their last couple of games and give.
Well, you're getting excited, yeah. You must be getting excited. Don't excited.
Yeah,
go on, allow it.
You can't but. In fairness, you can't but, right?
Let yourself live.
So I saw a few people asking about the 65 at the end of the game. I don't know is my straight up answer to that. My take on it from the ground was it looked like it was wide and it hadn't got a touch. So for anyone who's just hearing about this now, Oisin Kelly's a shot right at the very end of the game. He is adamant that it gets a touch and is appealing for it the second that the ball goes wide. Umpire on the near side, who should have probably had a better view of it, waves it wide. The other umpire doesn't move. So we get this wonderful moment of drama where the referee has to go in to consult for a few seconds with both umpires before he decides whether it's going to be a 65 or not. I kind of wonder if that game had been Nolan Park, and maybe the majority of the 6,000 people who were there weren't baying for a 65 at the end of the game, do the umpires decide, go on, give the 65, go on, pop it over, it goes over for a point, it could be a draw. I'd love to see it, and I'm hoping when I see the replay, there's actually the clearest touch of all time that I didn't see in real time in the ground. But unfortunately, because the game wasn't streamed and wasn't on TV, I wasn't able to do the classic thing which you're usually able to do, which is you get your phone out and you just pull the player up and you go, any second now, we'll get a replay of this and I'll be able to decide. Yeah. So I don't know, I came home in complete ignorance after the game and went, I'm just glad that Owen Cal stuck it over the bar and that Offaly got a point, because I think they deserved at least a point from the game. But again, I'd like to see it in League Sunday later on to see. Who knows? Who cares? It went over the bar. That's my take. In terms of should the game been on TV or should it have been on streaming, I mean, I think GA Plus should be showing as many games as possible. I realise there's a lot of heat on GA Plus from the weekend just gone by. The fact they're showing the 2 prime football games, they're the first 2 choices for the weekend of the 23rd and 24th. And look, I understand that people are annoyed because, again, you get a game like this which has ended up in a draw. I would think that most people going into this weekend probably didn't think that Offaly Kilkenny was going to be particularly close. And I would say when GA Plus were making their calls, they went, well, there's 2 provincial finals which are on the TV on the Sunday. We're committed to showing a game in the Tailteann Cup. And so therefore we're going to stick with our hurling game on the Saturday evening, which was they showed the Waterford Cork game. Trying to remember which one was which, and the other game was on TV. The Wexford Dublin game was on RT. So RT were obviously a little bit pinned in by what they were going to show because they were going to show 2 provincial football finals. I would like to see more and more shown. I'm very much in that camp, but I'm not in the kind of John Milan camp, which I saw on a clip from the Indopod from last week, which is almost like everything should be free to air and everything should be free to watch. You know, the GA, and I won't usually come out to bat for them, the revenue that they make at the moment ends up generally being pushed back into funding clubs and funding development around the country. If they were trying to run a full-time GAA channel, can you imagine how much money that would cost? And like, it's not that long ago that we had very few games on TV. In a way, because we've got used to so much stuff being streamed now and so much being on TV, we've almost become complacent about the fact, and we seem to think everything was shown once upon a time. It's not possible to have absolutely everything live. As much as I would love to be able to get access to everything. Again, I was lucky, it's only up the road. I was able to sit up and watch the game today. But generally, I think GA Plus have shown a lot of hurling when it comes to the provincial championships. I think they're locked into showing a couple of games next weekend, and they're definitely showing a game on the final day in Munster and a game in the final day in Leinster as well. So if you're a subscriber, like I was saying last week, in April and May, you got lots of hurling for your buck. Murph was watching Clubber today. You were watching Antrim against London.
Yep. Yeah.
I saw a few people saying, why don't counties just put it on themselves if it's not on? The top championships, the rights are RT and GA+. So if Offaly or Kilkenny decided they want to put up a camera today and stream it, they can't, because the rights belong to RT and to GA+ for the top championship. Outside of the top flight, you want to show Christy Ring, or if you want to show Joe McDonough, Clubber are showing the Joe McDonough at the moment. As far as I know, the Christy Ring, counties can make their own decision, but the reality is that the counties couldn't have decided to stream it today. So it was the radio or be there, I think, when it came to those matches today. And I am looking forward to seeing it back later on. But I think it's not possible to do every single game, and it's certainly not possible to do everything for free. It's not cheap to broadcast these things. It's really not. Like, and this idea as well of, I would agree with, I think it was Declan McBennett who was talking about this recently, this idea that, you know, no one would care, just put one camera and it'd be fine and it could be low rent and whatever else. I think for certain games it can be. I think TG Carr are great at that, particularly when it comes to underage. You can have one commentator, just one camera panning across, and we had all that during the streaming times as well. But the reality is that for most people, when it comes to the top championship, that wouldn't be viewed as good enough. So, should GA Plus be showing more? Yeah, probably. Because it's the GA's own product, and maybe they could take a loss on some games, but that's a commercial decision for them to make. And I don't agree with this idea that everything should be free, and absolutely everything should be free to air. And just because people are good GA people or whatever, they should be able to watch it for free. That's the reality of it. You're not going to try and say you do that for the Premier League or the NFL or anything else before we divert into other things. And I'm glad that there is as many games in RT as there are, that it stays free to air. And TG Carr do a wonderful job on things they've got rights for. And we get to watch so many games free to air throughout the year. I'm glad that the paywall is only for a minimal amount of games. But I think people will get increasingly pissed off about the fact that GA Plus have now got some of the best games. That's never the way it was meant to go. A few years ago, we were told GA Plus are only taking more time because they want to make sure they have subscriptions. This is a 50-50 RT GA thing. Now the GA have it, and the GA are picking the best possible games that they can on a weekend. So let the debate continue on that, but I don't think free for all or free fare for everything is possible. And yeah, I agree. Loads of people saying that TG Carr is amazing and whatever else. And also the Rubes there, who's obviously living abroad at the moment, is saying £100, so I guess you're in the UK, for GA Plus for anyone outside the country is a godsend, be a disaster without it. That's a fair point. And I actually kind of, for the best part, I have liked GA Plus's coverage. The only one I didn't enjoy was Bank Holiday Monday just gone, when I sat down for a draw, which told me it was going to be a draw at 1 o'clock. And they gave me what I would call the Infantino UEFA treatment, whereby actually it'd be about 25 past before we draw the balls here for the Tailteann Cup draw and the All-Ireland draw. And I was just like, just do the fucking draw. Just do the draw. I don't want you to tell me you're doing this magnificent magazine show and we're not doing the draw. Just do the draw. I want to know who's playing who. But alas, hopefully that doesn't happen tomorrow when they do the next round of the Tailteann, which is 1 o'clock tomorrow. But beware, it might not be at 1 o'clock on GA+. But generally, I actually have liked GA Plus's coverage, and I enjoyed the Waterford Cork coverage, which was a bit of fun at the weekend as well. Elsewhere in Leinster this weekend, so that was Galway 422, Kildare 122. So Kildare somewhat up against it now to stay up. You've got Brian Dowling versus Kilkenny next time out, and they will play Offaly at home in their last game, and they will need at least a win to stay up. Now, for all the Offaly hype at the moment, if Offaly lose to Wexford and Offaly lose to Kildare, Kildare would stay up on head-to-head. So all is certainly not lost for the men in white. Meanwhile, the other game that had significance yesterday in Leinster was Dublin.
Hang on, hold on a second.
Careful there for a second.
Hold on a second, no.
Go on.
Will, we did not get the thoughts of Murphy on Kilkenny.
All right. Sorry. Do you want to do Offaly Kilkenny now? Sorry, I was just on with the 65, not with the thing.
We're going back. I actually thought we were skipping past Kilkenny.
Oh no! All right, boom. Let's stay with Offaly Kilkenny before anyone's blaming me that we're saying
that
this.
was a natural transition. We're going to talk about 165 in the game. We'll go to Dublin.
Sorry.
Go to
all right. Interesting game. Only people who are in there would have got to see it today. But roller coaster of emotion again. Again, one of those games where you come away from a bit like the Dublin game as an Offaly well-wisher when it came to the game today, where you go, point is great. Wasn't really expecting that pre-game, but yet this party going, do you know what, actually, when Offaly went to point up with a couple of minutes to go, it looked like Offaly were going to hold on and win. And unfortunately, it just wasn't to be right at the end of the game. But again, I think it was one of those which was a mixed bag when it came to the performance. I thought Kilkenny, I'd agree. I see Gary Farrell is commenting there at the moment. And I know he was annoyed about Johnny Murphy's performance as referee. And certainly the Kilkenny fans who were in front of us gave a very steady booing when the officials were coming off at the end of the game. And I think the 65 was maybe the light that hit the paper at the end of the game to really annoy them because they felt that 65 was unwarranted. But they were annoyed at quite a few of the decisions during the game. The reality is, I thought Offaly were the better team in the first half. But if TJ Reid stitches that chance just before half-time, which is a very good save from Liam Hoare, Kilkenny would have went in 6 points up, I think, at that stage, if that had gone in. And Offaly a little bit of rallies before half-time, so that was a key moment. Instead, Offaly go in just 1 point down at the break, which kept them very much in it. The wind wasn't all that significant. It felt to me like the wind was coming around the corner rather than actually in any team's favour. And then the second half was just so nip and tuck. But Offaly found themselves 2 points up with about 18 minutes to go. A few of the Offaly half forwards were getting on ball quite a bit. Dan Burke particularly, they didn't get a handle on whatsoever. So I'm not quite sure if this area around the Kilkenny half back line is working just yet. So as a Kilkenny supporter, I'd be concerned about that, and I'd be concerned about some of their play coming out from the defence as well. Mikey Butler got himself on a yellow card early enough, so himself and Charlie Mitchell were having quite a tussle. I actually thought that maybe Kilkenny would switch them, but they didn't. They actually kept him on him, and I thought there was a chance either him or Paddy Deegan could get a red card just by the nature of the yellow that they picked up. Offaly kept battling. Offaly without a few of their key players. And look, the thing is, Owen Cowell came in pretty much from the cold. Adam Screeney's been on the freeze and has been starting. Adam Screeney has an injury. Don't know if he's going to play against Wexford. Johnny Kelly was saying after the game that Screeney would be touch and go for that game, be late in the week before they know if he's going to be available. But Owen Cowell again sent over 15 points today. He basically did the damage on the place balls. TJ was having a kind of a weird day. He came off after 50 minutes, I think. I'm not sure whether it was a knock or whether it was tactical. Ben Kennedy been doing a decent job when he was in around him as well. But TJ missed 2 frees, which is very unusual. Keane Kenny then takes over the frees after TJ went off. But Kilkenny, were misfiring a little bit when fouls were being made as well. The reality is, I think Kilkenny will feel they underperformed. I know, Murphy, you were listening to it on the radio, so by all means defend them in terms of what you've heard from today. But that was my take on it, trying to take off the Offaly hat for a second and just assess the performances. I thought Kilkenny were a little bit disappointing, and again, I thought Offaly rose to the challenge like they did against Dublin. So is there concern now about where Kilkenny are at? Because where are they now? 3 points on the board at this stage, which isn't the best return, albeit if they were to beat Kildare and beat Dublin, they probably go through and have got a very good chance of going to a final. But where are you at with Kilkenny right now, given that everyone's saying you're trying to get away with this?
Before I even mentioned the word, when I was listening to the game, I was just saying that like Offaly deserved to win it. That's what I was actually kind of feeling when it was coming down the home straight, because neither side was flawless, really. Like Offaly were making mistakes in terms of, at times they were opening the door from Kilkenny, because they were trying to work the ball out and they were mishandling it, maybe like a line ball here or there, or Kilkenny would turn over the ball. Kilkenny then with the wides from the frees. I think maybe it was about 5 or 6 wides from frees, which were, you would traditionally say, scoreable frees. You know, you should be putting them over. If we were looking at another team here, let's say Clare were playing Tipperary and Mark Rogers missed a few, you're saying, you should be putting them over. And at times as well, where like going in before half time, TJ misses 1 or 2 frees and you're thinking, like, that was a situation there to kick this game out to 5 points. And then Offaly, in fairness to them, they bring it right down, only puck the ball in it going in at half time, and then perform really well in the second half. And like I think they brought out 3 points. I know you said 2, but I think it might have been 3 points at one stage. And like they were you just felt that for all the injuries, like Screeney's not playing. Like you look at the first match against Dublin where they get the draw. Screeney's not playing, and he was playing in that match. So like even again, you'd have to say it was an even more depleted Offaly team. So like full credit to Offaly, absolutely. But like outside of Keane Kenny, I don't think there's many players who could actually say that they performed really well. Like there was maybe been fits and starts. It also seemed like Kilkenny were forcing the issue with goals as well at times where they got through. Now, in fairness, Mikey Carey's goal probably didn't get the best connection on it. Squirts through, but after that the Offaly goalkeeper makes great saves. Like, so you're kind of saying like from TJ's one just before half time, but there seem to be a few occasions there where the score's on, maybe take a point, keep the scoreboard rolling, and Kilkenny go for a goal, Offaly turn it over. And similar to like what you were saying, Skehill, about when Billy Nolan made a save for the penalty against Cork, that if they got a score down the far end, that would have been huge. Offaly seemed to get those scores against Kilkenny. Do you know? So they'd make a good defensive turnover, go down the other end. And like Duignan, I think Duignan maybe only had 2 points, would that be fair to say? But was hugely involved, like was really involved. He got a point early on, and then his next point I think would have been around the 55th minute or something around that. So like I was just looking at it going, geez, look, for all of Offaly's depletion here, they're the ones making the running. So like there's no, like, anything's possible here from Kilkenny from now on. I'm talking about, like, lads are saying, well, they have Kildare at home. Kildare were 12 points up against Galway. And that was a Galway team that beat Kilkenny by 15 points 1 week, 16 points 6 weeks previous. They have to go to Parnell Park as well. So there's no point in glossing up any other way around it. Like, as in, there's tough matches to be played there. The Wexford match, you're going brilliant. You know, they're after making a load of run-ins here now. They're after maybe getting the show back on the road. But then you're saying you're going to Tullamore. Even if it was a full strength Offaly team, you're kind of saying Kilkenny should go and win this game, but it wasn't a full strength Offaly team. So with that said, you're saying that, okay, well, I don't want to take away from Offaly, but Kilkenny underperformed, but Offaly did everything they needed to do to get a draw, and we're unlucky not to win the match. That's just, I suppose, the honest way of saying it. But look, outside of that, there's not much more to take away from it. Like, it's kind of one of these things now where the Kilkenny panel just have to go perform, stay in the championship, get to a Leinster final, see what happens from there, or don't perform. And Kildare, who are doing their very best, will come down to Kilkenny. And like, if you take them for granted for a second, like, Kildare will cause you serious problems. We saw them causing problems for Clare up in Hawkfield. We saw them like getting big results, and like 12 points up against Galway. You don't just trip into that. I know, Skehill, you were saying that Galway, you know, you weren't happy with it. Kildare still had to go out and hurl, like, you know, and they still went out and took their chances. And like, they have players. So for me, with Kilkenny, you're there going, where are they? I think the just jury's out at the moment. Like, at the end of the day, they have to go and perform, and they have to go and earn their crust, get out of Leinster, get into a Leinster final, whatever it's going to be. But I think the idea that you say that they go to Kilkenny, or that Kildare come down and they go and beat them, like, Brian Dowling will have them lads wound up to the last, and it'll be a case where Kilkenny will be under pressure to get the show back on the road, and Kildare going, we're fighting for our lives here, even though we've hurled really well, we're fighting for our lives. And then you look at Dublin up at Parnell Park. That'll be such a tough match for Kilkenny. And I know traditionally, like, Will, you were saying, there's, you know, maybe Dublin outside of 2013 haven't beaten Kilkenny in X amount of years, maybe since the 80s in the championship. All those records are there to be broken if you're not right on the day. Like, you know, as in, we could be sitting here going, oh, it hasn't happened since 83. Like, that won't be any consolation to Kilkenny. So it's go on.
Can I ask you a question, a two-parter? Do you think it's a defensive issue or attacking issue with Kilkenny have? And the second part of the question is, if you were in charge, would you make any personnel changes, whether positional or team?
Well, the first one, like, when I look at the players, I have no problem with looking at players going that man for man, I think there's great players there with Kilkenny. Like, I really do think there's fantastic players all over the field. Like, there's all-stars. Okay, there might be limited enough All-Ireland winners. I think only TJ, Richie Reid and Owen Murphy are the only All-Ireland winners, I think, still left. But outside of that, I think the lads have performed really well. But it's a performance thing. I wouldn't be looking at it going, oh, the forwards aren't or the backs aren't. Against Wexford, they went at it and they meant business and they hurled really well. And I'm like, great. Do you know what? That took a bit of resilience, took a bit of character after the Galway beating, and you had to go out and hurl against Wexford. Albeit Wexford weren't great, you still had to go out and perform against them. And they did. So for me, at the moment, it just seems to be a kind of a coming to the pitch of the game. Like you mentioned about Galway there against Kildare, that they arrived. And I kind of touched on it with Cork at the same time against Waterford, that, you know, didn't hit the peaks, maybe didn't arrive to the right pitch of the game. Galway more so against Kildare was an example of that. Kilkenny are doing that as well. Like, Kilkenny arriving in against Wexford, I think because it was Wexford and Nolan Park, they were going, okay. But I don't think maybe they gave Offaly enough credit coming into this game. Maybe, don't know. Like, Will, you were at it, so you can say we're Offaly outstanding. From my understanding, they weren't outstanding. They were good, and it was gutsy, and there was a lot of, you know, there was a lot of heart shown. But you couldn't say they were flawless. No, so,
pretty good. I would say probably not quite as good as the Dublin performance, but again, very encouraging compared to what we saw in the league earlier this year. A step up on that.
Yeah, very encouraging. But what you would say is that, you could say other teams there, like, they're very encouraging performances, but they're being beaten by a good team. So, like, let's say Wexford or Waterford, encouraging performance was really good, but like at the end of the day, Cork did what they needed to do against them. And you can say that for certain results, but Kilkenny aren't doing that at the moment. So Offaly are disappointed they didn't win the game with a very good performance, but it wasn't absolutely outstanding where there wasn't areas where Kilkenny couldn't exploit. Kilkenny just weren't able to exploit it. So it's a one that kind of Kilkenny just have to take on the chin and go, we weren't good enough today. And again, I'm not to take away from Offaly there, because I've sympathy for Offaly with a depleted team. They have 2 points on the board. They had to work really hard for those, but they could very easily have 3 points on the board after today. Like going into injury time there was opportunities for them to win.
Gary Toohey making a very fair point here. With Kildare and Offaly playing well, has Leinster gained some brownie points this year? It's certainly a lot more interesting. Yes. Last few years the only question really was, where do Galway and Kilkenny finish in the top 2 and who's going to join them? And then every odd year, Dublin might finish ahead of them. We had obviously the Wexford wave of the late 10s and getting that breakthrough Leinster success, but because Kilkenny have been so dominant, and generally it's been Kilkenny, Galway plus one other that come through, with some rare exceptions admittedly, that became the question. And really, it was about the other teams at the bottom who was going to stay up. While this year, I think it's a great thing for the Leinster Championship that now it feels a little bit open going into the last few games. Because now Dublin have got 2 difficult games to finish, Galway away from home and Kilkenny at home. I know they've got points on the board. They've already got to 5, but they probably will need a result from the last 2. The door is open for Offaly. If they perform well against Wexford at home, Kildare away, they could qualify. And, Dublin go to Galway next week. If Galway aren't quite on it like they were against Kildare, Dublin have got recent memories of winning in Salt Hill. Kilkenny now are a little bit up against it because of the way they've played. I think, and I know you were nodding straight away, Skehill, that makes this championship way more interesting. God, there's been years here where, Leinster has felt like a foregone conclusion and the top teams are going through the motions. They won't be going through the motions for the last couple of rounds.
Well, they can't be let, though, Will, in fairness. And it's a bad sign if any team goes through the motions in the last couple of rounds. And like Dublin's... You can talk about Dublin and Wexford in terms of the game as a spectacle, but like Dublin were impressive. They ground out that game, and coming to Galway, where the conditions can be very, very, very similar, we can't let that happen, Will. We cannot let it repeat of what Dublin did to Wexford. And I couldn't believe that Wexford hadn't beat Dublin since, was it 2018? Was it 8-9 years since they've beaten Dublin? I think so, in Championship. Ooh. So Dublin, again, like Dublin, I know more... he put points to Kilkenny not beating Galway or Wexford, was it 3 times in 12 meetings over the last number of years? But like Dublin with regards to Galway, Dublin have beaten Galway definitely three times, if not 4 in the last 10 years. So it's not as if there's a foregone conclusion, and it can't happen. That's what goes back to my earlier point. There has to be a ruthless streak here. If Galway are going to go anywhere and go up the Hogan stands for any kind of cup, whether it be Leinster or Ireland, they have to put them to the sword here. Have to put them to the sword. No goals conceded and a big victory. We want a repeat of what we saw against Kilkenny. The exact same level of ruthlessness, intent, and a full squad on display.
Murph is 100% gone to text back into the WhatsApp group. The Stag group has finally caught up with him at this point. So there were definitely a load of questions that I wanted to get to, quite aside from the other games. But let us talk about Wexford and Dublin before then, because I almost forgot about them there for a second. So Wexford again, sore aligned and Lee Chin. Some Wexford supporting friends of mine were quite down after this result. Because again, they were expecting this was the make or break game for them, really, if they were going to qualify. And Dublin win 221 to 20 points. Goals in the first half from David Purcell, Keane O'Sullivan. For Dublin at Wexford Park, this is the RT game yesterday afternoon. They were ahead at half time, 213 to 10 points. Again, I thought watching the game, flicked it on after the Kildare Galway game finished, I thought Dublin looked quite comfortable. Donald Burke sticking over 15 points. All-star last year, Keane O'Sullivan with 1-3, Purcell with that goal. Your take on this, Gal? I mean, to me, again, this felt like Dublin were a little bit ahead. Again, it's a very professional performance for Dublin. Go get the win, clean out the results as best they could from the games that they were expected to win, have put themselves in a very strong position to qualify. I just don't know where Wexford are going from here, to be honest, because we were hard on them after the Kilkenny game, but they were equally disappointing against Dublin. They kind of got nowhere near them.
But what do we expect out of Wexford at this moment in time? I think when we're talking about Wexford, we have to be fair in our analysis. We can't be judging them off 2019 when they won the Leinster Championship and like almost got an Ireland final. That's not fair. That's not the team they have at their disposal at the moment. And it's a bit tricky now as well for people to be putting blame at Rossiter's feet because he just doesn't have the quality at the moment. Not him as a person, but the team, the players, And so we can talk about tactics, analysis, game plans. You can name all that, right? But ultimately, if you don't have the quality of player, it's very hard to compete. And like yesterday when I watched the game, Dublin looked supremely confident in their approach, and it was you never got the feeling at any stage that this game was going to be relinquished by Dublin. You always thought Dublin were going to win, and the question was by how much. Now, that's not trying to be dismissive of Wexford. That's just a fact. And Wexford are just lacking. They're lacking potency. They're lacking firepower. They just don't have, I think, the quality of system and team and player at the moment that can challenge with the top 6 or 7 teams, whatever. And that's just reality. And again, we're not trying to be shitting on Wexford. It's just that we can't be saying that we expect Wexford to beat Dublin, expect them to beat Kilkenny and Galway when they don't have the people or the players capable at the moment. What they need to do is obviously they refreshen their team. And you said a dependency on Chin. Chin wasn't hectic yesterday with either. I know he scored 12 or 13 frees. He got like 1 point from play, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, correct.
They had like 9 points from play in the whole game. So yes, they depended on him at times, and he's produced magic. But there has to be more than that. And they're missing a couple of players. I get that. You know what I mean? It's just that I don't see the rejuvenation from Wexford's minor team up to the senior team over the last 5 or 6 years. I made note of this a couple of weeks ago. We can pinpoint team success and increased performance to the I would say rejuvenation of senior panels by younger members. I can go back to Cork team at the moment. They won the Ireland when they bet your Offaly well under 20. The Galway team at the moment, although they have won a minor under 20 Ireland, they're being backbone now. You could say in their forward juniors by under 20s, current under 20s and last year 20s. The same with Tipperary last year. Well documented about Sam Farrell and Darren McCarthy, etc.
I think before anyone thinks we're shitting on Waterford, they've got a really good group of young players which are coming through at the moment as well. So,
which come here, you'd hope to see them transfer into the senior grade as soon rather than later. But where the team stands right now, it's just reality that they don't have that high level quality that can knock off the teams like Dublin or Kilkenny or Galway at the moment, right? And that's why I was so surprised to hear the stat. But didn't surprise in one arm, but it's reality in another. They haven't beaten Dublin in 8 years, but home or away. So it's not as if that this has been a major surprise waiting to happen. This has been a regular occurrence, to be fair. And Wexford didn't like that. They can have the ability at times to get up for Kilkenny when they play them at home, but just that's more of an emotional approach as opposed to a tactical one. So where they go from here, it's very hard to tell. And I can see people. I was watching on Twitter yesterday that were calling nearly for Rossiter's sacking or resignation, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that's fair. That's not fair if you ask me. Because you can't put it down to him. If he had a supreme group of players at his disposal and he was managing them, let's say, in an ill manner, that it was part of the downfall, I'd say something. But in this instance, I don't believe so. And Wexford people, if you're watching, feel free to come at me here and challenge what you may feel internally. But just from the outset, looking, and that's yesterday was my 5th time to watch Wexford this year. 5th time, and I can say hand on heart, I haven't been impressed at any point in moment in time. And it's not talking about the hurling application; it's just the general performances that they're producing are not, at the level required to compete at the top level. So, that's why I said to you from the outset, the Offaly Wexford game. I know you were on about Offaly Kildare at the start of the year before the championship.
It's tasty now.
Offaly Wexford. You're after going to Dublin, or you're after inviting Dublin and inviting Kilkenny. You didn't lose either. Come on. This is it's as the lad says, it's on if you want it to be on. It's just have you the belief to do so. And Wexford are in a tough position now because, as I said yesterday or earlier, Dublin approached the game where you could see that they were confident in their approach and very defensively aggressive. You know what I mean? Whereas Dublin or Wexford, I didn't feel it well. You couldn't feel that kind of confidence. They looked very reactive. Every time I thought Chin got the ball, their bodies around him, they just didn't know where to turn. There was no set plan or where a ball go backwards or laterally. It just came across not very individualistic, but just very reactive, that they were trying to, I suppose, put up their socks as an individual as opposed to a group. Do you get me?
And that lack of fluency wasn't there in the Kilkenny game as well. I know we were very, very strong in the after Kilkenny game, and I thought issues defensively that day, but everything was so scattered and individualistic in its approach that day as well. There was no real kind of flow to the way they moved the ball between the lines or anything like that. No, watch them go and play brilliantly in 6 days' time in Tullamore, but all past evidence is that might not happen though.
But again, my brother-in-law asked me today, he said, do you think the previous management wore them out? I said,
I can't blame Davy for this now.
I said, geez, I don't think so, to be honest. I'm not blaming Davy, but...
For me, it's too long ago, and also Roster surely has a good handle on who's coming through and who's not coming through, given he was managing these lads underage before he went to the senior team.
But what I said, my response was, I don't buy excuses.
Okay.
They are where they are, to be honest, right? And it's just, if they're standing as a 15 looking across the pitch to Kilkenny or Galway, and you say, are we as good as them? I don't think they are, to be honest. And they can't say it themselves. But come here, it doesn't stop them applying their best effort. And just yesterday, I was very critical of them. Go back 7 years ago with their methods in the 2019 semi-final when McGrath got sent off. They went very long. And it's have they graduated into a different type of game plan? And yesterday I saw the same. goddamn thing in the second half. Long balls that just are going nowhere, crazy shots. Didn't look like it was connected at all. And it's worrisome. And again, I'm not trying to be very down on Wexford, but I said a month ago, even after the Clare League game, that I just don't know where they're going.
Yeah, I think Wexford fans feel the same. To Will Norris's point there, Conor McDonald's opted out for the year, I believe. And where is Rory? Well, Rory O'Connor's gone to Australia. So Amy Gavin Mangan, his partner, is playing AFL. So I think he was going to go last year. Then he held off until the end of the championship last season, but he's gone for the calendar year.
Is Conor McDonald in the country?
I don't know.
Murphy,
I don't know.
I think he's doing a bit of I think he's doing punditry. I think it's.
Is he still doing the podcast?
Is it Talk Sport with Bubbles? Isn't that? I've seen him there. Yeah, so that's where I've seen him anyway. So
he just opted out.
Sorry.
He just opted out. Is that no injuries? Just opted out.
He just must have opted out. He might be injured. I'm not sure. I really haven't a clue, to be honest.
I think he just took the year. I think he's taken the year out. I don't think he's formally retired, but he's not playing.
Sorry, Murph, because you're a dog outside the country, I expect you to know Everton, Waterford, Wexford. I want you to know everything.
South Wicklow, Wexford, Carlow, Kilkenny, Laois.
Our southeast correspondent kicks in. Rush lad, which is Rush spelled differently, of course, the area rather than Liam Rush. Dublin's defence looks a lot better with Rush at 6. We did wonder about this, Murph, where he was going to play. Was he going to be an auxiliary attacker? Was he going to play full forward line? You know, you're kind of waiting to see how much match time he's going to get, and then boom. I know Chloe O'Connor put it at the very start as well. Maybe this was the plan that Neil O'Callaghan had all the way through, is to get Rush back in to do a very specific job, like Mark and Lee Chin. It's an interesting one. I mean, it adds a little bit extra to it. Then obviously it opens up where you put Chris Crummy as well. There's all sorts of little domino effects to this. But does Liam Rush now become their starting 6 for the rest of the championship?
I think so. He looked really well. He looked very fit. Looked to be at pace of the game the whole lot. So, again, it's always a question you have to have of a player. Particularly, this is a kind of an unusual scenario where it's not even that the player is away. I think Liam officially retired, didn't he? That was it. Yeah. He was done. But he looks great. He's obviously a fellow who looks after himself really well anyway. But that doesn't mean necessarily you look after yourself really well. You can just step into inter-county. But he's flying it. And I did think he'd be further up the field, because it just seems like a big move to bring a fella back in at centre-back when Chris Crummy has been really good at centre-back as well. And you have a few lads who can kind of sit into that position as well, Conor Burke and these lads. So, you do have players there. So the fact that he came back and into the number 6 position, it's a big move. But it looks like it's going to work out. Now, the fact that, Callaghan would have had him with Nafina and that as well, knows him really well, obviously, and knows what he's capable of. So that certainly helps. But I just think it looks like the case now where, like you said, a bit of a domino effect there. Well, Chris Crummy, who's a fella who's played everywhere from centre forward to centre back, they can now maybe push him up a bit further. So it gives them a small bit of freedom, I suppose, to push on and attack maybe. So, it's interesting and looks like it's going to work for them.
Yeah, it's also one asked about Rob Downey as well. Rob Downey, fitness across Cork in the past coming last 40 minutes. I think half-back line is lacking and players were blooded, but not in the half-back line. Was this a mistake?
That's harsh.
It's a little bit harsh. I also think Cork have changed around their half-back line, but again, I thought Coleman was excellent again this weekend just gone by. The other thing I noticed about Rob Downey, and it was only just from a clip that we saw before the game, he was walking around, but without any kind of ankle protection which was on. Again, I'm not a physio, I'm not a doctor, but based on the fact that he was walking around reasonably freely, maybe he's not going to be out for that long.
He's sound. Put a bit of cow gel in it to be sound. Lads, don't knock it, lads. Udder cream.
Yeah.
Or if you've no idea that was right.
I understand what udder cream is, but I don't know what it does.
Give us your insight.
If you've got a sore back or a sore leg or something, put the udder cream in it. Works for you. Yeah.
Diddly.
Yeah, I'll send you a bottle.
O'Donoghue wondering about the headphones. Are the headphones still in the post? I think the lads are happy enough with the headphones they have. Do you want me to get you headphones, lads?
Jeez, I don't know whether I use happy now. I'm content because it's all I have.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm happy enough. I can hear you. That's what the headphones are going to do. So.
All you can do is play out the cards you're giving, Murph.
Yeah, I do sometimes look a little bit enviously at the boys on the football pod though, where Paddy Andrews, who'll probably be doing the Tailteann Cup draw on GA Plus tomorrow, and Jimmy O'Donoghue tend to have quite good looking headphones. And Tommy's definitely taken a set from the office wherever he picked them up. So yeah, these are my own. But I can definitely get the lads' headphones. I kind of like that the lads have them though. They're difficult to see with the exception of the bits of white coming down along here. And they're a lot more discreet than my kind of over-the-ear headphones, which someone last week was asking, why do you always have one not over an ear? And this week I don't. The reason you do that, before we get on to all the different questions and so on, the reason I do that is an old radio thing, which is that when you're in the room, it's a good idea to be able to hear out of one ear, but also be able to hear the feed at the same time, so you can hear what's happening in the room. It's just naturally by default, I move it ever so slightly off my ear. I don't even think about it until someone pointed out last week. They went, "How come it looks like you've got one of them halfway off your ear? What's going on?" It's like, well, that is the reason why. Rob Downey is available. Dennis Walsh here saying he's available for the Clare game if needed.
Insight.
You always get this though. Someone DM'd me as well and said that Galan was 100% back for the Clare game, and then he wasn't. So
yeah, you always get these coming into games. Like I remember, and like I was talking to, I think it was Shamie Callanan before the All Ireland final last year, and he had it that I can't remember the moves, but he was saying, "Geez, I heard this going to happen, this," and none of it happened. So it's amazing, like, where like he obviously got it from a really good source, like reliable, but that person must have been tricked or fooled or whatever. Like, so these rumors that go around say, "Oh no, 100, geez, he's flying it. This fella's flying. He was down in Dr. Morris and he's absolutely 6 points the other day in training." Nah, man's still injured.
Would udder cream be considered performance enhancing, Skehill?
Considering it's over the counter, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Jesus. I'm retired, just say that.
Yeah, but it's over the counter for cows, though.
Touché. Very good point, my friend.
Not sure the cows are going to be checked. Richard Hogan saying I should just borrow a pair from Matt Cooper. So Matt Cooper uses just the standard Today FM headphones. I usually bring my own if I'm covering in for him. He just uses the bog standard Today FM ones.
Are these things dear, or are they? These headphones?
It depends, to be honest. It depends. The ones you're wearing I presume, came with your phone at some point.
You're expecting me to answer as to why it depends, Will. I haven't a fucking clue.
Well, it depends how expensive you want to go. These ones I'm wearing right now, I got these I think on sale for about €120.
Right.
Which were like
€120 or
€120. Oh no, 120, not €1.20. No, they're 120. They're usually around kind of 130, 140.
Right.
I do like them. They're soft. They're well cushioned. They're good studio headphones. Like they're nice and robust.
That's 10 bags of nuts. No.
Yeah. I mean, the cheaper ones, 20, 30 quid, get you a pair. They'll break in no time. That's the only problem. That's the reason I invest in a decent pair, because the ones that we buy cheaply in work, they're made out of plastic and they break in no time. I'll get you nice headphones if you want, though. I think 5 seasons in, I think we can owe you a set of headphones.
What do you call them in tweets, in comments, them super duper comments or duper, what do you call them things? People talking
Super chats.
Super chats.
Super chats.
Someone else super chatted us, didn't they, at some point last week, I think? And then I was like, here, let's stop the super chats. I don't think I've seen any tonight, thankfully.
Come on, super chat, please.
Yeah, they're more discerning with their cash now at this point than sending directly to us. I did see someone saying they would super chat us a pint, which reminds me that Skehill's first Instagram post went up this week. And what else would it be but a pint of vitamin G? You and Sean Dyche basically had the same post this weekend.
It just came to me, Will. It just came to me.
I bet it did.
I was toying with the idea. Would it be farming orientated? Would it be? I said, you know what? No, it's the point. It's the point. And that's, come here. Big congrats to Big Tom the Guard. He's another son, JJ.
Oh wow! Fair play, Big Tom.
We were wetting the head. And all the Tom must be watching live, because he texted me and said, "Did Will not get the memo for the black t-shirts?"
No, I didn't. No, I decided to wear the hoodie I was wearing earlier in O'Connor Park, because I came straight back to talk to you boys. Set of Sennheiser HE1s for Scal. By all means, Squire, we can get you some of them. And super duper comments. Yeah, that's what we need. Super duper.
Do you want to know what AI says about udder cream?
Go on.
Is it called udder mint as well, Scal?
Yes, yeah. But Grace called it udder buddy.
Right, so I love the fact that it has to say humans here, differentiate, because it's obviously made for cows. So uddermint is popular among humans for treating muscle aches and joint pain, often touted as 100% natural, fast absorbent peppermint based product. While many users report success and safety, it is technically formulated, tested and marketed for cows. So it's not made for humans. So you should use it cautiously and check the label for potential sensitivities. It doesn't sound like it's terribly bad for you, though.
No,
it's not saying it's not naming off a heap of steroids or anything. So that's good.
No.
If you're the Cork physio team, do not rub this onto Rob Downey's ankle to try and rush him back, because you have a week break now anyway. Let's just see how he is in 2 weeks' time. There's no rush whatsoever. Right. There are plenty of things that we can throw at it. So will I go to the correspondence and then see where we go? Because it was loads of stuff from last week.
I want to give a shout out to the London Antrim game as well.
Oh, actually, yeah, Jesus, go for it. Do you know what? Well, I give the results first from the other games and where the table sit. And you give us a breakdown because you wanted to watch Antrim today in London. So Antrim won in the end, 122-49. This again, the Murph was watching on Clubber. We had Carlow get out by a goal against Down, to stay top of the table, I should say, 317 to 217. And Laois won on the road. Big result for them against Westmeath, 528 to 219. Did some serious scoring with the win, particularly in the second half in that game. So, lay of the land in the Joe McDonough at this stage. You've got Carlow, who've got 3 wins out of 3. And also with the Carlow supporter who sent me I'm going to say a DM last week, making a very fair point that basically Marty Kavanagh over the course of the championship, and this includes Joe McDonough and Leinster, basically averages out at about 1-8 every single game. You can almost set your watch to Marty Kavanagh with the way that he scores. So he's definitely one of those heroes that we should talk about with what he's done over the course of 60 plus games in the championship for Carlow. Just remarkable consistency. But Carlow topped the table on 6. You've got Laois with 4 points. They've lost to Carlow, so Carlow do have head to head over them as well. Down, having also lost to Carlow, puts Carlow into a very strong position, but Down on 4 points. You've got Westmeath on 2. You've got Antrim now on 2 after that win against London as well. So we're facing into a reasonably crucial weekend where you've got Laois against Down in Portlaoise this coming weekend, and you've got Westmeath against Antrim while Carlow play against London. You would think that Carlow get to 8 points because London have currently got 0, which will probably put them in the final, and then you can basically pick your second team from the rest of the group of teams under that. It's very, very close indeed. And before we ask Murph about today's game, Christy Ring Cup today, what a result for Roscommon, who were coming into the weekend bottom of the table. Got a draw against Donegal, 114 to Donegal 17 points. In the race for the final, Kerry out in front, beat Wicklow 825 to 17 points yesterday, and it was 3-15 apiece between Meath and Derry. So what does that do to the table? Well, Kerry, 4 games played, 8 points on the board. They're going to the final. You've got Derry on 5, you've got Meath on 5, Donegal now on 3, Wicklow on 2, and Roscommon up and running with a point from that draw against Donegal. So that is the state of play in the Christy Ring as well. Murph, tell us about your view then on the London Antrim game, because already I've got AJ Grimm here who's saying, what do you think about the commentary, Murph? I found it very entertaining.
It's the first thing I wanted to jump to. It was class. It was absolutely brilliant. So the first thing to say is that one of the reasons I actually made sure I threw this on was the fact that generally often people will comment and say, look, we can't see certain games. Like we couldn't see Kilkenny and Offaly on television today, but often earlier in the year people are saying, would you talk about Down in Antrim, would you talk about whatever, but we can't see them. So Clubber were covering this today, so I was like, do you know what, I'm going to throw on Antrim and London here. Commentary was top class. It was absolutely brilliant. Savagely biased towards London, which was I loved. It's only a way to put it. But the thing was, the two boys are clearly involved in the London Club Championship. They knew the boys really well, so they knew the London players really well. They were having a laugh and a joke. It's like they just microphoned up two boys that were in the stand, and that's not being. I'm not throwing an insult at the lads. It was great, but it was entertaining. But like at halftime, for example, they threw out one of the facts, which will be a fact that will give you an indication as to how Antrim or how London went. Like at the end of the day here, Antrim were just the better team, but London were in striking distance. Like they brought it to within 3 points in injury time, and sure you wouldn't know after that. But Antrim got a free then just to push it out to 4 points. But at half time, they forgot to turn the microphones off, and one of them said,
"Oh Jesus!"
It was just dangerous. It's just dangerous. But they said, Antrim got 11 balls into the full forward line the first half, and only 3 stuck. And you could hear them going, "Yeah, you use that now in the second half." And they came back after half time. 11 balls into the full forward line in Antrim, which was class. But then, for example, right, Paul Kennedy was full forward for London. Top class. The speed on him was outstanding. So he got a goal at the start of the second half. Credited to Paul Cummins, who was the sub goalie for Kilburn Gales. So I'm sure Paul Cummins was happy out with that. But Paul Kennedy, few great players. Barry Morrissey, cornerback for London, was outstanding. Who else? Sean Lynn. Who did I say? Barry Morrissey. Adam Curry, really good as well. The only difference was Conal Cunning. When he got the goal in the second half, if he was living off scraps, he was still able to score. Antrim just had a bit of ball to hand, they had a bit more physicality. Jack Morrissey got a goal from outside the 21 in the last couple of minutes, which really brought it back. I think it brought it back to 3 points then at that stage. And Conor Byrne as well got another great goal. But London turned really well. They just didn't have the physicality of Antrim, and they made a few mistakes. They got a red card towards the end as well. Then Padraig Muldoon got a red card. But Antrim were kind of in control. But to bring it back, I thought commentary, I loved it. I thought it was really good. And at the end of the day, it was actually an entertaining game to watch, because London hurled really well. The second half they were playing into the wind, but kind of actually started hurling a bit better into the wind because they were forced to use the ball well. And then look, Antrim, you could just see physically they had a bit more hurling. You could see that they were hurling at a higher level. So, but no, it was a good game. It was entertaining, and like, I like, to be honest, it was great to be able to see the match. Do you know, as in if you were available to watch it, and you had the time, it was great to watch it.
I'm going to take on to Tula O'Brien's point here about are Offaly supporters the worst supporters in the country? Short of it, no, but go on. It was up until more last year. It was a very poor crowd considering it was a quarter against Cork. It was a preliminary quarter final. What does the team have to do to get a following? Look, there was 6,000 in there today. I think it was 6,066 was officially what they said in the tannoy early in the second half. There's a good crowd in for the Galway game last year as well. I would be the first person who would call out Offaly's own support about the fact that there has not been a harnessing of the support that was there for the underage teams, which again was largely a bandwagon thing. Oh, the Miners are going great. They're going to get to a Leinster final. They might win something. Boom. Next thing, massive crowds going and people can't get tickets. And that group of players then transitioned into an under-20 team who went on to win an All-Ireland Championship, and there were massive crowds who were following them. It is an awful shame that those fans have not come out in force for some really big games that Offaly have been in the last 2 years since they got back into Leinster. But the reality is, we're also a very small county. Let's not forget the very small population that Offaly have right now. Kilkenny didn't have a huge crowd there. Like, there was a reasonable Kilkenny crowd, but like, it wasn't massive support. Similarly, like, I didn't think that Dublin travelled hugely for the first game that they played. But on this very podcast, I was the first one who said, I wish some more Offaly people had actually been at the game for that one, because particularly was in the melting pot, it would have been great if there was a bit more of an Offaly crowd to potentially cheer them over the line. So they have not managed to transfer the support from those teams in. That would be craziness, though, given that I think 1 in every 3 people in the county was at the under-20 All-Ireland final against Tipperary. You're not going to get that every week. And also, I think just a certain amount of this year where Offaly have had some rough results in both codes. Thankfully, the football turned a little bit with that win in the Tailteann, and there's been 2 good results now against Dublin and against Kilkenny. But you would understand how some Offaly supporters who might be a little bit fair weather about going come off the back of the league where Offaly have lost a whole load of games, and there mightn't necessarily be a huge drive to go out and support them. I'm hoping there's going to be a good crowd there for the Wexford game now, because even if people haven't seen it, they may well have heard the fact that Offaly played well against Dublin and Kilkenny, and they might go, do you know what, there's actually a massive chance here to drive on and get 2 points against Wexford and put themselves in a position to qualify in the last weekend. I'm hoping for that. I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen. And that's without taking in all the different divides that happen within Offaly. Skehill is well familiar with East Galway versus West Galway, and Skehill probably didn't watch the Galway footballers against Roscommon earlier on today. Did you even watch it?
No, I was the Iron Cows.
So there you go. I mean, so I don't think you can classify Offaly as the worst supporters in the country when it comes to that. Definitely not. If the team goes well...
Are you calling me a terrible Galway supporter now for not watching the football?
No, I'm pointing out that there's plenty of people in Offaly from the football end of the county who wouldn't give a crap about the hurling, and as much as there are people from what would be called the hurling end of the county that wouldn't be particularly interested if the footballers are playing, and you're not going to coax them to go. And there's certain people in South Offaly that I know of a certain vintage who would have no interest in going in to watch the game in Tullamore, rightly or wrongly. Yeah. And it is changing because the demographics of the team are changing, and so different people go to support the team, and all that is really positive and great and whatever else. But look, it is what it is. But I definitely wouldn't say they're a particularly terrible bunch of supporters or anything.
Like, what's the population of Offaly?
Oh, it's like, 70,000, I think?
Yeah. Like, in Galway, it's 10 times that?
Yeah, totally.
Do you know what I mean? Cross-Kilkenny County, like, so it's not, you're not comparing apples with apples, to be fair.
No, you're not.
When Offaly won, like when Offaly were competing, let's say back in the 80s, football and hurling, would it be right in saying the population was only about 35,000 then? I could be completely wrong. Ooh. So at the end of the day, if Offaly has 70,000 people in now, that's grown. It wasn't just 70,000 back in the 80s. Surely.
Yeah, I know it has grown a bit. Now the argument would be that Offaly 80,000 a season when I said there. So again, I knew it was in the 70s to low 80s, but there you go. Let's not split hairs on that one. But
the
basically,
population of County Offaly in 1986 was 51,000.
Yeah.
Okay, 51,000.
Now, the only one thing you'd say about the 70s and 80s, which is a good thing for Offaly, was that, particularly with Board Namona plants and the ESB and so on, there were a lot more people probably working in the county than there are now. I would say most of our football and hurling teams live outside the county.
Okay.
Combination of college and working outside. So,
yeah.
How excited is Will O'Callaghan about Offaly's chances coming in from Will Norris? Sure, look, I mean, you can be excited, but temper that with just expectation. It requires a big performance against Wexford next time out. If they beat Wexford, they open the door entirely for themselves. If they don't win, they're not going to qualify. Simple as that. But I'll be happy as long as they stay up, because there's still a place where Offaly can be congratulated and pats in the back for the performances against Dublin and Kilkenny. They could lose to Wexford, then lose the last day against Kildare and get knocked out. So let's not have that happen. Do you know? Yeah. So there you go. There's more people living in parts of Cork than there are living in all of Offaly. So you got. It's all relative, baby, is what I would say to that. Okay. Can I get to to some of the correspondence then? Because there was loads of it that came in. Right. One that came in from John Ryan, and this is the ultimate compliment for Paul Murphy. Because we're saying last week, some guy had said, Paul Murphy, I'm turning off the pod because of Paul Murphy. And then John Ryan said last week, Paul Murphy's brilliant. That is a compliment from Tip. And the fact that he had to use that disclaimer to say from Tip means that he really, really meant it. And then here's one to really get Skehill's juices going. Because for Tim O'Carroll, right, he couldn't stop on best goalkeeper. And there were loads of people looking on Spotify who were going, Skehill, you can't leave out Fitzhenry. He's got to be right up there towards the top. How is he not in your top 3? Fair enough. But in this one, the first championship I'm old enough to remember is 1996. So my best 15 didn't just stop at a goalkeeper. It's best 15 from 1996. Number 1, Brendan Cummins. Number 2, Paul Murphy. Number 3, Noel Hickey. Number 4, Ollie Canning. Number 5, Dermot Burns. Number 6, Shawnee McMahon. Number 7 is Tommy Walsh. Number 8 is Tom Kenny. Number 9, he's put in Keane Lynch. He's got a half-forward line of Richie Power, Henry Shefflin, Noel McGrath, and an inside-forward line of Aaron Gillan, Joe Canning, and John Milan. I'm happy to leave that open to the floor so people can turn around and go, let's hit us with our 15s here.
Immediately, I'm thinking of the players that's being left out. I didn't hear JJ Delaney today.
No. Who could get in plenty of places in that team.
Yeah. Was Ken McGrath in that team?
No.
Jesus. Right.
I do like you think about this as someone obviously from North Tipperary here, kneecapped hood, obviously a fan of kneecap as well. Population will get smaller when Tip and Carrick, Moneygall, etc. Special military operation. No, we're not handing you either of those two areas. They're ours now. Picking out at Moneygall is, worth a bit with the whole Obama thing. We's keeping it.
Was TJ Reid the team?
No.
Look, I'm stopping there. Okay, I'm over there. I'm not engaged in this madness right anymore. Okay.
Do you want to have a think about it for next week? Yeah.
I've thought about it already. That team. I'll name it. Tell you what, I'll name a team next week that'll kick the shit out of that team. Right? How's that?
Fair enough. It's always a bit of fun in the comments. I know people love talking about 90s and early 2000s hurling. So give us your 15s and try and take on Tim O'Carroll's. There's a few, like, I would say definitely JJ and TJ are two of the big people not in there.
Like, was Owen Kelly in there, Tip?
No.
Yeah. God damn.
Indeed. Hopefully Rachel Fulham's having a good time. Great pod, lads. Some of the last ones. I love a longer form on a bank holiday Monday. My journey from Dingle to Westport. That's a hell of a trip. As a Limerick fan in the Kingdom, looking after the small ball on the TV yesterday. Or are you looking forward to a long journey from Waterford to Westport next week and going to a hen party with a load of Cork fans? So we'll see the match at least. Petition for a regular Sophie cameo. I actually think the best idea for next week is, and by all means, you can expand this out to the rest of the family scale if you want, is you can record them before we come on, send me the video, and I'll play it at some point in it. And that way they can go to bed on time and they can all be involved. Because your third daughter had absolutely no reason whatsoever or no interest in taking part in this.
Not a bit. All she wants is treats.
She'll have to read a book.
Which is chocolates in the book, yeah. That's what she wants. But the second girl, it was nearly kind of, we upset her. We didn't include her in the Sophie's Choices, but the Sophie's Choices was a great shout, great title.
It's a great name too,
So you're the journalist of this trio. So her name is Esme. So I leave that one to you. Pick that one.
Wow. But where did you get the name Esme from? Now we've gone well off beat now at this stage, so why not?
I picked Sophie.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why. Grace picked Esme. She just liked the name. Grace picked Robin, and I picked Joey.
Okay. So you went back and forth.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, isn't that right? Or did she pick Sophie? No, shit. Grace picked Sophie. Sorry. Yeah, look, Grace picked 3 girls. That's it. That's all I can say.
No sign of Sean Oak. Also, yeah, very fair point. I think there was 2 Cork defenders, I think, in that 15, but Sean Oak didn't make it. So, all right. Here's one of the 2 you can do instinctively. All right. And this one came in from Tutulo O'Brien as well. Who is the best pound-for-pound player that you played against or with? So, Murph, you can take that on first. With or against, whichever you prefer.
With pound for pound, I always the hill I'll die on for anything is that if you're ever picking a 15 and you don't have JJ Delaney in it, regardless of any other player, I was amazed at how well JJ played the whole time. I'm talking about training, I'm talking about inter-county, everything. Pound for pound, like, I just have this thing. JJ was absolutely ridiculous. And, like, Tommy was absolutely ridiculous, outstanding. Henry, TJ, all that. But, like, there's something just, I think, I don't know, just haven't seen so much of JJ. I was like, he's something else. That I played against, I would say Owen Kelly probably. I just think Owen Kelly was like remarkable, like, you know. And I remember what I always thought was a fair trait of a player was that when you were a young lad, if you were watching a match that you had no skin in the game for, like, let's say you're watching Tip and Clare or whatever, and you saw a player do a few things that made you go out and poke a ball off the wall because you wanted to try and replicate it. I always thought that was a savage thing. So I think for me, a player that I played against, like, I mean, absolutely, Canning and all them. But oftentimes I don't hear Owen Kelly mentioned as much as I think he should be. I just think he was outstanding.
Interesting. We almost had Owen Kelly on the pod for one of the live shows. And then whatever happened, he wasn't able to make it in the end. And we ended up subbing him in for Seamus Flanagan, who was really good. And then Seamus Flanagan goes on to do loads of punditry after he was in with us. But we almost had Owen Kelly. So I think we could get Owen Kelly another time, 100%. Very, very nice guy. He let us down wonderfully by going, look, I'm really sorry I can't go, but I'll throw a donation in. So he did, which was very, very nice of him as well. Skehill, your best to play against and play with?
Pound for pound, not including the top tier guys. Except I'm not allowing myself to say Kenny, you know. I'm allowing myself to say Dahi Burke. Pound for pound, Dahi Burke, it's very hard to beat him. Athletically, skill, mentally, you know, big game moments early. I don't know how what other words to use to describe him. He was just top drawer. Top drawer. Against, Jesus, who did I see? It's not that you dislike playing against them. It's you always give them the greatest respect, and it's always a forward or someone in the half back line, because that's where the ball will be coming to me or me putting the ball, if you like. I loved Kim McGrath. I have a soft spot for him. I have a real soft spot for him. I just loved that he had no helmet, teeth missing, covering a blade of grass. You know, I always remember that ball he caught going. Do you remember the ball he was running back towards the goal and caught it coming the other direction? He was coming from his backside.
Cork in the Munster, was it Thurles?
Yes, Murphy. Yeah, that catch, I just can't. Like, you've tried to, like you said there a few minutes ago about Owen Kelly. Yeah. I've tried to replicate that more times, catching the ball, coming the opposite direction which I'm running, or the same direction as I'm running. Excuse me. I loved him, sound man as well to boot. So yeah, Kim McGrath is my shout. I probably the team I loved, you know, beyond Galway, probably in the early 2000s, was Waterford. So I'm a big fan of the likes of Dan Shannon, big fan of Owen Kelly, big fan of Kim McGrath, big fan of John Milan. I love Seamus Prendergast as well, just a brute.
Yeah.
Probably that Waterford team. If I'm picking someone off any team, I'm heading down towards that direction again, Murph.
Not to break your flow here, Skehill, right? But somebody from Waterford has just messaged me and said, Skehill is naming Waterford people at the moment. Has someone spiked his my waddy?
The answer is no. Let's go back to that team, my friend. I loved that team. And again, got to play against them, let's say, when they're coming towards the latter end of their career, albeit. But you'll be playing against them in, you know, like Waterford Crystal games, and when you're in LHE, and then play them with, you know, Galway, and it's like, geez, these lads are legends. This is in the middle of the game, you know. So yeah, Jesus, Dan was class. Fuck me, I'm reminiscing now, lads. Do you ever, does any player in that team you remember that wasn't, you know, that was outside the big five, if you know what I'm saying, or big six? Anyone that you can think of that was. Say
that again. So a player from outside the big six.
Well, I'm not using the counters. I'm just going Waterford specifically. So bear with me for a moment. But the big six would have been, you know, Kelly, Flynn, Shanahan, Milan, McGrath. You know, those kind of big five rather.
Okay, sorry, the boys in the Waterford
team. Boys in the Waterford team, yeah. Who else was deadly?
Tony Brown. You haven't mentioned Tony Brown.
Didn't even mention.
Oh, Jesus, my apologies.
I think, by the way, that Richard Hogan is absolutely right here. I think Richard's a Kilkenny man as well. He's like, that Waterford team should have won the 07 All-Ireland. It was a pity the performance in that 07 All-Ireland final. But I think of a certain generation, there are loads of us who would have loved them to win.
He's talking about 07, they were beaten by Limerick in the semi-final. 08 was where
Hamilton. Oh, sorry, 08 was that was the nasty one. They were class though at that time.
Limerick were outstanding in the semi-final in that one. And I actually remember Andrew Shaughnessy was corner forward at that time. He was absolutely outstanding. Like, when you talk about individual parts, in terms of a striker of a ball, I don't know if I've seen like a lad who has a crisper strike than Andrew Shaughnessy when he was really in his pomp. He was like, and again, it's like I have these random memories. Like Ger Farher outstanding at sidelines. Do you know this sort of? I have these random.
Yeah.
But Andrew Shaughnessy struck a ball, and I always remember JJ said it. I think it was in the final against Kilkenny. The second half, he went for goal, and JJ stopped it. But I think JJ kind of mentioned that didn't really see it coming. It was flying, and it just kind of he thought where it might have been passing, like instinctively, and just put the hurl out and stopped it. But I remember seeing Andrew Shaughnessy striking a few balls, and it'd be frightening how hard he was able to strike them. Yeah, top class.
Yeah. Absolutely agreed. Someone had it up there. I probably lost the comment because people are now sticking their teams in and so on. But this is one the two of you can both answer instinctively. Here we go. Who is a better wing back, Tommy or JJ Delaney?
I'm not answering that.
Not answering.
Go on. You have to.
No, you don't have to answer. No, you don't have to answer. I nearly said, fuck off.
Split story.
I'm answering that.
No, that's the one where it's like if someone goes to me, like if I sat down and someone said to me, Joe Canning is the best forward I've ever seen, and he's picking between Henry and Joe, and they said, Joe, I would go, you can make a good argument, you would make a good argument for that, and I accept that you believe Joe Canning is the best player. And if someone else comes along and says Henry, that's fine. If someone says to me Tommy or JJ is better, they will never convince me that one of them was better than the other one. They're two different type of players. And I just think it's pointless trying to compare that. Like, they were both sensational players, and I don't think anybody would definitively answer who was better, Tommy or JJ.
Okay. Skelly, you're sitting on the fence as well, are you?
I actually put a thought into my head. Instead of picking that team that would beat that man's 15, I'm going to pick a team of 15 that players I just loved. Do you remember saying there about the team that your man picked from 96 and he picked his best team of all time? Fuck that. I'm going to pick a team that I just loved. My 15 all-time heroes in that period,
That's a good one. Players you liked. Do you know what I thought was a good one we can throw out? I thought of it during the week when I was driving. I was like, that's a good one to throw out. A team of 15 players that their club wasn't mostly senior. So their club was either junior or intermediate. Do you know the way you have these rogue players who they weren't from like a
dominant team,
a dominant team, like a Ballygunner or Glen Rovers or Ballyhale Shamrocks, that they were the first of their club maybe to. They were junior club, but they got to senior. You know, that sort of way. Like they got to. Yeah. So a 15 who their club was predominantly intermediate or junior. I think there's a. No, you have to do a bit of research. That'll be tough. Skehill, I think you're up to it. You've
created parameters which we didn't need, but that's what this pod is all about, really. Paul Dermody with the old joke there. 2008 was the only Ireland to begin at 3:30 and finish at 3:30, which is the score that Kilkenny got by the end of it.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, it was nasty. John Troy is not underappreciated. John Troy is loved on this podcast. John Troy is the cult hero of all cult heroes.
Yeah, John Troy gets a. Do you know what I didn't know? I didn't know John Troy had a good few brothers. Is there a good few brothers? Like, and they all look like John Troy. We were basically. I think anyway, because we were at the 10th anniversary. Was it 10th anniversary or 10th reunion of so the GPA and the GA do this thing of where this year 2026. The team who won in 2016, 2006, 96, 86, and keep going all the way back. They have before the All Ireland on the Thursday or Friday, they bring them to Croke Park for dinner. So we were 2014, and then 94 Offaly were there, and I just it was like a John Troy lookalike competition. I was like, how many lads? I was like, which one is he, and which one is John Troy? Because, but now there might have been only 3 of them. But I was like, there's way more people look like John Troy here than I thought.
So I think 2 years ago, Lusma won the Junior B football in Offaly.
Okay.
And John Troy and one of his brothers were still involved in the team. There were lads who won a senior club championship in hurling in 1989 who are still playing in 2024 in Junior B football.
They were playing?
That's the type of place Lusma is.
Jesus. Lusma, they won the intermediate in Offaly this year?
Yes. Yeah, and apparently they had the party of all parties when it came to the dinner dance. So, one of those places. Jim Troy, of course, is keeper for Offaly in '94 and would have played for many a year playing there. Also, there it would be Jim's the young lad, and John's nephew Mark is the sub goalkeeper at the moment.
Okay.
For Offaly, and he would have won a senior B with Ballinamere, I would say as well. And one of those players that come out of. And look, there's loads of people there who are, there is a skill named after John. Like the flick that's the Keane Lynch does right now is the John Troy flick.
John Troy. He was the first lad I ever see do it. Yeah.
The whole of them here. PJ O'Connell is the cult hero of all cult heroes.
PJ O'Connell. Yeah.
100%. Let's go with this. There's loads of lads.
Cult heroes. Yeah. Is it a team scale of lads you like / cult heroes, or is it more lads you like?
I've just jotted down some fellas. You call it culture. It's not really. It's just guys that I loved when I was young.
Right, go on. Reel them off there.
I have James Fitzhenry, Wayne Sherlock. Loved him from Cork. Loved
Wayne
him.
Sherlock. Yep.
Brian Lohan. Ollie
You're doing it
Cameron.
now. Okay,
Sorry, I was as you're talking. I was just because I'm going to do a couple of teams. This is going to take me a couple of drafts somewhere. Honestly,
that's what I was going to say, because you're definitely you'll have a 15 drawn out, and then a haymaker. You'll remember someone. You'll be like, yes, get that fit in there.
Sean Mahan, JJ, Kim McGrath, Tommy Walsh. Love Tommy Dunn. Tommy Dunn is in there. So like I'm getting down through it. So I just it's like when I watch the game, and the Sunday game theme tune, which might I say, right? when they changed the theme tune, that should have been a sackable defence. Whoever did that, did you remember back a few years ago?
They changed it back pretty quickly. In fairness,
sackable defence. Whoever got that, I hope they're in some other country. So that when that tune came on, these are the players I wanted to watch. So I'm kind of limiting myself to a time span, aren't I?
Do you know what the Sunday game theme tune is? It's a Spanish salsa song.
So we had this, yeah. There was some lad basically who was working for RT, was on holidays in Spain, heard the tune and robbed it. It was basically what happened in Father Ted. Sorry, Skehill, for using the Father Ted reference, but basically went, do you know what, we'll just nick that. And they changed it just enough that it's slightly different, but it's exactly the same.
What is
the song called?
We were there's a name on it there. I can't remember what it was. But we were on holidays in Portugal when I was a chap, and we were sitting in some place having a dinner. And next thing, these lads kicked into the Sunday game. They were just playing a local song. I remember myself and Father were like, "Are they playing the Sunday game theme tune?" And then it was quite obviously. Then you only realise that that's like a Spanish kind of tango song.
Yeah. It's called "Yeah" by Blanca Aurora, which was a 1960s Spanish language song.
Isn't it so random though? Like, it's brilliant. Anyway.
So fabulous song. I remember we played it on one of the pods a while back. I just wasn't familiar with it at the time. Yeah. But it was a thing you learn along the way. And it's an amazing song, in fairness. I think again, whoever changed that and tried to modern it up, just don't.
There's no need.
Loads of lads there. The Bennett's played junior in Waterford as well, I'm told. Again, by Waterford.
I didn't know they were junior, yeah.
Wally Walsh obviously played outside senior.
Are they Ballysaggart? Is that
Ballysaggart,
yeah. Yeah.
They were at junior. So yeah.
That's it.
Loads of options. Joachim Kelly, Offaly, was also another Lusma man. I see it's someone has put up as butchered the man. I'm pretty sure Joachim tells a good story about John Troy as well a few years ago, which he probably won't mind me saying either. Is that basically Offaly ended up playing Antrim in the early 90s. Offaly were Leinster champions. And we played them in the quarter-final. And Antrim had home advantage for the quarter-final because they were giving it to the Ulster champions at the time. And basically they ended up staying in a hotel in Belfast to break up the trip. And Joachim was basically rooming with John Troy because they were club mates. Joachim was coming towards the end of his career at the time. So he was like, early bed, let's get to bed, let's see what happens. He realised that John Troy had disappeared at one stage, but assumed he was just going for a walk. John Troy arrived back in at, I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. Turns out that he'd basically gone to a Sinn Féin Ardèche and had gone drinking with them all night. And then he ended up having an absolute worldie of a game, as it's put, against Antrim the next day. I don't think it was televised, but apparently like John went on about 2 hours sleep and was absolutely incredible.
Ah, jeez.
And had a cigarette at half time as well. So different times, baby.
Yes,
that is completely different times.
Yeah, you wouldn't get away with it now. Right, we're ticking towards the 2 hour mark. So let us just get through a few of the other bits that came here. Corey O'Neill on Spotify. John Myler's new hurling advisory committee. Well, John Myler's on the committee. Is there any changes you lads would like to see made in hurling? I would like to see high fielding encouraged more. Perhaps if a player catches a contested high ball and scores from it, there could be an extra point. Is there anything you boys would like changed about hurling right now?
I would like a mark for the goalie.
A mark?
Yeah. Go on.
I'd like him or her to be able to call a mark when a high ball comes in, let's say, and it's in a square. You know, in his own square, Murph, he's able to call a mark. Yeah. I'd like that. Yeah. Because the minute he gets the ball, it's like, oh shit, it's like a hip lad's in front of me.
But does it take the excitement out of, like you were saying there, that lads don't chase in? Like, remember a few weeks ago we were talking, lads don't follow in the keeper anymore because you just let him take it, let him hit it, and sit back. Remember, like that's kind of basically it's done at the moment.
Yeah, I was kind of saying from an open play perspective, that's what happens. You know, I suppose maybe if I narrow down a bit more, you know, if it's kind of like a dead ball, like a 65 long range free, and you manage to catch it in your own square, maybe that perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd also like to see the penalty as it is. Do you think are you happy with the form of it? Would you be happy with its current form?
Doesn't bother me anyway.
Like the 1v1.
Wait, what would you want?
Do you still want this idea of someone soloing at the goal?
No, so let's go.
This kind of USA 94 style idea that the MLS had in, where a guy picks up the ball and has to run at the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I don't know where.
That
I'm not trying to advocate for bringing the three back on the line. But do you think that the scoring rate has decreased quite a bit? Do you think so? Since this penalty came in, I feel like it has. I think you got way more when there's three in the line, because obviously the distance has decreased. But
well, like I thought when you could carry the ball over the 21, there was three in the line. It was more of a benefit to the striker, because, to be honest, the two lads that were on the line were more of a hindrance to the keeper. The keeper's the best person. They were. They were in. Like, how many? You could go back through quite a few penalties over the years where there's three on the line, and the lad could go in past the 21, and the keeper goes to block it, and his hurl collides with like the lad who was on the line as well. Do you know what I mean? So I actually think, and my understanding was when it came in. Do you remember you couldn't pass 21, obviously, because it was international spring in, and when there was three on the line then and you couldn't strike past 21, that was going against the forward. That was like too hard, because so then you bring it back to just the keeper. I think that's like, at the end of the day, it's still a benefit to the forward. The forward still has the advantage. Yeah, so if they miss it, I think there's maybe they've been dropping the standard of lads being savage at hanging them up, or maybe the keepers have been good. I don't know.
I would strongly recommend people have a listen back to Pat Ryan's sit down with Owen Sheehan from during the week. So Owen went down to Cork to have a chat to him, and it's definitely one of the first interviews he's done since the All-Ireland final, but spoke like brilliantly about the passing of his brother, stepping away from Cork, some of the pressure that he felt in the last year, particularly with the Cork hurlers. And he was asked about, what would you change about hurling? And one of the ones he had was no pass back to the goalie after the puck out. So this idea that, and teams do this all the time. We saw it a load in the Cork Waterford game, where it would be pass to cornerback back to the goalkeeper. Billy Nolan's particularly good at it, because Billy Nolan's got really good puck in him anyway, where Waterford love to do that pass out back to him. Billy kind of assesses things and then makes the next pass. And Pat was saying that he doesn't like that. He thinks he'd much prefer if it was more contestables further up the pitch. I see the Rubes had it there, no pass back to the goalie. So I think the two you're a bit divided on, aren't you?
Which?
I know, Skehill, you were saying last week you think it's much better off that they can go out and pass back to the goalkeeper. You wouldn't be in favour of stopping that.
In open play, yes. From a restart, no, I'm not in favour. So if I give you a puck out, Murph, and you kick it back to me, I'm not in favour of that. But if a ball comes in over your head, let's say you pick it and swing it across to me, I am in favour of that. In open play, I'm saying, in open play, not from a restart. So I'm kind of half and half, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you know what's a good one there that I saw someone thrown in that it would add to the chaos? The person who wins the free takes the free. That is,
saw that there as well. Yeah,
when that caused some consternation. Like, isn't I'm saying it's in terms of throwing the cats among the pigeons, and it would probably speed up the game, and also
whoever gets the free scores the free.
Yeah, so if you're a foul,
that's take it. Yeah,
it makes sense. It's cool, isn't it?
It'd be great. I mean, everyone would have to be reasonably okay taking them as well.
Yeah. And then, like, you could just get, like, a random fella standing over free to win a game at the end. He's like, oh, my God.
Or someone to be just attacked,
yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Keep following the cornerback.
Yeah.
Loan for present. I know what you want. You want predictions for the week to come. In a word, Claire, tip. Let's go a little bit more than one word on them. But let's take a look at the games that are coming up this coming weekend. Before that, just to remind you as well, if you enjoy what we do, you probably enjoy the football pod. Paddy Andrews, James O'Donoghue, Tommy Rooney, they're going to be along tomorrow to do a full look back on the football this weekend, including the provincial finals. I know Skehill won't be listening, but Murph and I may well be convinced to have a listen. So you can check out the football pod wherever you pick up your podcasts, or of course in the Goal Out app. But the game's coming up this weekend for us in the hurling. We have got, this coming Saturday, a make or break game. And a few weeks ago someone was saying to me, it isn't really make or break. But it is. It's Tipperary, the All-Ireland champions, up against Clare. It's almost a loser goes home kind of match, Skehill. Who do you like in Semple Stadium this coming Saturday?
This is a tough one. It's a tough one. I go with my initial gut feeling is telling me I like Tipperary. When I looked at it, and it's kind of. Do you remember when I was given my synopsis on the Limerick and Clare situation pre-game? I was saying that the Limerick forwards and the Clare backs, the matchup was much stronger for Limerick, in favour of Limerick versus the other way around. I have the same sentiment here, fellas. I just think that the Tipperary backs as a unit will be able to deal with Clare more effectively than the Clare backs will deal with Tipperary forwards. And I think what Tipperary learned against Waterford will be substantial. And it was what I was on about earlier, Murph, in terms of the calmness and seeing the game out. There was parts of that game that were Tipperary were extremely impressive, and then that they look back and say that they were disappointed with the way they allowed Waterford back into it. No, that was Waterford ground the way back into it too, but this is do or die territory. And I just look at the mental fortitude is going to be tested here big time. And I'm saying, right, can Liam Cahill get his Tipperary team up to a level that will exceed Clare? And the answer for me is yes. I believe so, yes. I think that as the more the championship goes on, and if Tipperary can stay in it, they get better. Whereas I cannot see, just without personnel changes, like bring John Conlon back in, I can't see the Clare defence getting to a level where they can compete with the top 3 or 4. Which is, I know it's bold. And here I stood here a fortnight ago, or even less, and I said Clare come out of Munster. Hands up, right? I did that. But what I saw last week was so bad, that's, to be honest, in terms of defensive structure. And now I'm concerned, really, for them going forward. Mm-hmm. But in the same breath, do you remember there was a Munster final down in Thurles a couple of years ago, and the Clare defence got absolutely opened? What happened in that year? What happened that year? They went on to lift the cup. So it's like, I sit here and say Clare could potentially get beaten by a bit of a margin, and they could turn on win their Ireland. The one county I just can't graph correctly. Do you know what I mean? I can't graph them. Yeah. They could be terrible yesterday, and then they could be awesome today. Like, that's just the way they could be. So, but my gut is telling me Tipperary, fellas. It's telling me Tipperary, yeah.
Which way are you going, Murph?
Yeah, I'm going to Tip as well. I think what kind of skews it a little bit in terms of Clare is that Limerick were so outrageous against them. Like, Limerick really upped the levels, which kind of maybe could lure people into a sense of thinking that Clare fans were disappointed, obviously, and we saw a lot of the comments afterwards that they were disappointed, which is fair as well. But like, Limerick were outstanding. So coming into this game, you're looking going, like, they're not as, I'm not going to say bad, but they're not, their levels haven't dropped that much. I just think they're struggling for a bit of form, and the backs were at a little bit of 6s and 7s the last day. Like, they have great forwards there, and obviously Shane O'Donnell was well marshalled the last day. Tony Kelly was involved, but probably not as much as involved as he would have liked to have been, and I think we'll see more of him against Tipperary. But Tipperary have been really good when they've done it right, and when they've done it well. They've been really good at getting their matchups really well. Like, we saw it in the semi, or in the final last year in particular. We saw how if they get their setup right, they really, I suppose, cut their cloth to measure when they're playing a team. I just think, like, Thurles doesn't even come into it because the teams play there so much. For me, I just see, like, with Tipperary there, the one thing I will say is that the 20s matches, I think they're playing about 3 days before. Mm-hmm. That's a tricky enough one as well, when Tipperary do have a good few lads involved there. So that is a tricky one. But with Tipperary, I just think they have a little bit more than Clare at the moment. It'll be a tight game. I don't think there's going to be very much in this. And I see some people saying that they expect maybe Tip to hammer Clare. I don't expect that at all. But I'm just maybe saying that Tip by 3, even closing out by 4, and you might be saying why you swaying by 3 or 4, like, as in that they close it out and they make it a two score game. That's what I'm saying, that when they get the chance, bring it out to 3 points. But the thing is, the one thing that you can never count on, and it's probably also touching on what Skehill is saying there, like, when you have the likes of Shane O'Donnell in the equation and Peter Duggan and these lads who, you might be going well, you might be up by 4 or 5 points, and then suddenly these lads have the ability to hit the back of the net and they bring it back to a cagey game. A match can finish anyway after that. But at the moment, on the balance of things, for me, I just have a bit more with Tip at the moment. I just think that they have enough to see it out by 3 or 4 points.
Also, a fair stat brought up by River Power. Tip haven't beaten Clare as Semple in the round robin.
Records are there to be broke.
Oof, they truly are. And that's River Power tempering expectation as a Tipperary supporter as well. Right, so that is the Saturday Munster game. Or is it we do the Leinster games, which are all on Saturday as well. Skehill, Galway, Dublin. Are Galway going to get a win against Dublin, qualify for a Leinster final?
Yes.
Oh.
The answer is yes, yeah. I'm saying that from a confident perspective, yeah, I am.
Okay.
I think the Kildare game and the way it transpired is working, would you believe, perfectly for Galway at the moment. What I wouldn't like is for us to have played Kilkenny, for example, yesterday and beat them by the margin we beat a couple of weeks ago and then roll into the Dublin game. So I've, as the government are always saying, lessons have been learned, you know what I mean? So it's time.
So you're trying to use the Irish government as a positive example here.
This has been learned. I'm just saying, you've got your 4-1 shot, to be honest, right? But the performance you produced yesterday was below par. Wasn't good enough from where you're trying to get to. So that's enough of a warning for this week in terms of your preparation, both mentally and physically, to rock into next week's game against Dublin and put them to the sword. Simple as that.
Okay.
in the story. And come here, if as across the board, will holistically, they're 15 versus our 15. We've a better 15, but that doesn't always mean you're going to win the game. So it's the top 6 inches for me. That's why this week is important.
Okay, it's the Big Tom Derby. For you, Murph, who's going to win?
Yeah, Galway as well. Look, Dublin are showing really well at the moment, but like I just see when Galway are focused at the moment, when they're tuned in and when they're up for it. You said wildly, didn't you? No?
Did I say wildly?
No, maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't.
You've been interpreted as wildly confident.
Oh, Jesus, okay. Sorry, Murph, I interrupted you.
You're grand. No, I just think Galway, they're in a good place at the moment, albeit that they wouldn't be happy with the start against Kildare. Maybe it's a thing for them to work on, that they don't drop their levels. But I just don't see Galway coming into this game looking like they'll be looking at Kilkenny going, Kilkenny don't know where they are at the moment. Dublin are definitely improving, are a dangerous team. But if they're looking around the province, they're going, we are the form team at the moment and we want to keep that momentum. And they have all the tools at their disposal to do it. Like there's a good vibe around, like in terms of the players coming through. Like we're Rabbit there, Nyland, and then obviously bolstering the fact that Mannion and all these lads are still there, and Conor Whelan. So why wouldn't you be believing you're going to win the match? So I for me, Galway, Dublin headed in the right direction, definitely. But yeah, for me, it's Galway all the way.
Dirty Den, our favourite EastEnders bad guy, has asked, what is your favourite Lethal Weapon movie, lads? I can take that one.
Dude.
For a long time, I liked Lethal Weapon 2 more than the original. But having rewatched them about a year and a half ago, I actually think the first Lethal Weapon movie is better than the second one. And I don't really care about 4 and 3.
What's the one with Jet Li?
That's the later one, isn't it? Is that 4 or 3?
It's 4. I like that one. Jesus.
Yeah.
I like them all.
I don't know. Even I've probably watched 1 Lethal Weapon, maybe 2. I don't know if I've watched 4 of them. I haven't watched 4 of them. I don't remember which one's which.
No, Murph, I'm dying to come at you on the same level you came at me before the table. I can't do it. Yeah.
Lethal Weapon. You're not gonna die on that hill. Lethal Weapon.
I have to wait out to this day film you haven't seen.
Yeah. You wouldn't have to go far now to find a film that I haven't seen.
Have you seen? Okay, my favorite films, right? Have you seen The Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah.
Okay, fuck it. Right, we're after a bad start. I'm trying to catch him here. Have you seen Die Hard 3?
Yeah, Die Hards. Yep, seen all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen Shawshank Redemption?
Yes, stop.
I
watched that a couple of weeks ago. Who hasn't saw that?
Have you seen Django Unchained?
Yeah.
Fuck it. No, I'm not going to catch him with. I'm not going to catch him. So
easy one. Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
There.
I haven't seen Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. I haven't seen it. Yeah.
I'm not ranking the Harry Potters, but Lord of the Rings is difficult. To me, it's 2. Do you know what? People love Return of the King, right? To me, it's way too long. And by all means, come at me in the comments here. The 15 different endings to play.
I watched the first one. I went to the cinema. I watched it. It was about 3 hours long. And at the end of it, 2 lads were walking over a hill. If I remember this correctly, they were looking over a hill and they saw something in the distance or something. They're like, "Oh, there it is," and the film ended. And I said, "What the fuck just happened there?" I was like, "What's after happening? Is there something going on?" I was like, "Oh no, it gets into it in the next one." I was like, "Well, I won't be here for that."
I still like The Fellowship. The second one, I think, is my favourite. Probably because I like Helm's Deep. And the third one is just too long for me. But I do appreciate it's really good. But I am that nerd who went out and bought the extended edition of all of them when I was younger and was absolutely obsessed. So, do you guys not read the books as well? I did Kraken Sumo. Who's got a... thought that was Ryu from Street Fighter for a second as emoji. I did Once Upon a Time, but a long time ago. And then I read The Hobbit, and then I watched the Hobbit movies. And I've had enough Lord of the Rings for now. I didn't watch the TV series after about 1 or 2 episodes of it, I think. Will Arsenal win the league? More importantly from Dirty Den. That's one for you, Mark.
God. I saw Gary Farrell. I didn't want to say it. Gary's after putting in Will, and you're after ignoring him there about 20 times. He was asking, was I going to Budapest? I'm not, Gary. I'd love to, but I'm not. Arsenal win the league. Gee, big one today now. The fact that they beaten West Ham. The other 2 matches I didn't feel are as dangerous as West Ham today, but that was a big one. And it was like, Skehill, you wouldn't have seen it now, Antrim. Big VAR decision at the end. Big Hawkeye in GAA terms decision at the end.
Was Dickie Murphy looking at it?
I think Dickie was on the VAR over the London Stadium.
In Stanley Park.
Yeah. So
Colin has set me up nicely for our next round of predictions. Is it now too much to say that Offaly should beat Wexford instead of just could?
That is too much.
It is too much, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, they both have their kind of weaknesses at the moment, like, in fairness, but you couldn't hang your coat on either of them to say that they'll find the form definitely to put down a solid 70 minutes and definitely go over the line. But Offaly are in pole position for that one at the moment, based on the fact that they're getting the most out of their team. You'd have to say, I think they are.
Well, I think so too. But again, I'm just kind of slightly mindful of the fact that Wexford are backs up against the wall now at this stage.
But so are you, sure.
I know, but our expectations were slightly different coming into this, I think.
But come here, like, two teams Wexford have lost to, Kilkenny and Dublin. Two teams you haven't lost to, Kilkenny and Dublin. No, I granted that they were home games.
Well played, yeah.
So, geez, but I don't know. That question for me, let's say, if Offaly at this moment in time now having taken points off both Kilkenny and Dublin and push Galway further than people would think from the scoreline.
Yep.
No one look at the Wexford game and says we need to win this. There's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, the approach 100% should be that. And this is Wexford, who are looking a bit wounded and looking a bit off it.
But I get what you're saying, Murph. Like, against a perceived, equal or lesser team, Wexford can, sometimes flatter to deceive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they can.
They could, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Wexford could win this by 6-7 points. And they could lose it. You know what I mean? That's the kind of the way I'm looking at it. And for me, Offaly only seem to get, let's say, put to the sword by the likes of Chipper Cork. Happens nearly every second year.
Thanks for the reminder there, Scott. I think come 8 o'clock Saturday evening, I'm hoping that it's Offaly getting an important 2 points on the board, and then let Wexford go off, lose their last game, let Dublin lose against Kilkenny, and if Offaly beat Kildare, they could go through and get a chance to go to the All-Ireland series, which would be real progress, and it would also be the story of a team coming out of the pack for this season, which if it's not your team, it's nice to see a team doing that. Similarly, I do lament the fact that Kildare will probably get relegated. If it's not Kildare, it's probably going to be Offaly. So we're going to lose a team who've shown well this year back down to the Joe McDonough for next season. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. I mean, you get games to play. Yeah.
I've often said Cork have a 5-point head start in Portqueeve.
Yeah.
What have Offaly got now in Tullamore?
I don't know.
This game's at home, my friend.
I know it is. Yeah. Right. So Offaly should have won, I think, away from home against Wexford last year. That still feels like one that got away.
Okay.
And this year, I think, at home, better form. Let's see how the injuries play out over the next week.
It's on.
I think Offaly can win. I do.
I'm
not in the Offaly should win, but if I was in Sophie's choices here, I'd be saying Offaly to win.
Jeez, okay. It's on, Murph. It's on.
You only live once, boys. You may as well go for it. People will be backing me next week going, look, he picked Offaly. Yeah, started the league. Started the championship, I should say, after the league. I was down and out. Yeah. Because of the way the footballers and hurlers were going. It felt like this is going to be a miserable summer. Let us have our moment.
You need to ask yourself, Will, what would Mel Gibson do in Lethal Weapon 4? Just you only live once.
Indeed. I see the Bog versus Beach Derby is what this one's been called now at this stage. So, look, if they get a result, it's on like Donkey Kong going into the last weekend if they were to win this. So that's what I'm hoping happens next Saturday. That's 6 o'clock game. Same time, Kilkenny-Kildare. Neither of you are opposing Kilkenny, I assume, in this.
Well, I'm not. I'm gonna expect Kilkenny to up their standards, but at the same time, like, I'm giving full credit to Kildare here. Like, I've heard a lot of people going, Kildare come to Kilkenny will win that. If you look at the Offaly performance there, if the standards are dropped, Kildare, give them full credit for the performance this year. I think Brian Dowling, the Kilkenny man who's over them, will have Kildare wound up. I think it'll be a tough one. But I'm obviously going Kilkenny to win that one, but it will not be straightforward. And if you think it's straightforward when you approach the game, you put yourself on the back foot.
Where's Donald Shirley? I see question comes in. Did his knee in the training just before championship. So unfortunately he's out for the rest of the year. Yeah. We went to a training camp in Waterford and picked it up there. So yeah, we've quite a few injuries at the moment. That is the other problem. But drive on, baby. Right, so everyone's going to Kilkenny, Kildare. Then Sunday, and if you want to do, because I knew I'd save something on my phone for some reason here. Hold on. If you want to do the permutations for either Leinster or for Munster, I believe, because the guys emailed me from the... do you remember you were talking about that calculator last week, Skehill?
Yeah.
Yeah, they emailed me during the week. knowthegame.ie. So they play a prediction game on there as well. But perhaps more importantly for our purposes, if you click the link, I have it tweeted and I'll retweet it now in a second on my own account. And I'll stick it in the comments on the YouTube. knowthegame.ie/app/hurling. You can do the permutations for Leinster Munster Championships and it'll work out who's coming out. So for the last 2 rounds, put your results in. They'll tell you who's going to each final and who's coming out, who's not getting out. So give it a lash if you want to go there. Limerick Waterford. I appreciate Waterford's problems here. Obviously Stephen Bennett's not going to be there. They have other injuries as well. I saw some Waterford supporters saying as well, why isn't Tyke de Burke playing if he's fit? Why did Ozzie Gleeson not get more time at the weekend when he felt like the player that should have come in? It's obviously their selection decisions. Fitzgerald's banned as things stand. Depends what happens to that black card and whether they appeal it. So issues, questions and all that about Waterford. Could they throw things wide open and get a win here, Skehill, and actually win in Limerick?
It's very hard for me to see it, Will, to be honest, because there's a difference when you're going to say a dog-eat-dog situation where there's championship positions on the line. It's one thing, but when you know your fate already, and come here, we can talk about permutations, but I think Waterford know their fate. Fair is fair. They know their fate. They're out, right? They're not qualifying, so it's going to be very hard to get up to the level of the pitch that Limerick would offer. And the one team I give respect to with regards to having a consistent performance at high level every day, regardless of opposition, I said is Limerick. So I can't see a result beyond Limerick beating Waterford. And I think even the most advocate Waterford supporter will have to side with me in that one.
I think so too. I mean, you've reeled off your mid-2000s Waterford heroes.
Yeah.
And now you can happily say, but the modern generation, I don't see them winning the Limerick. And that's fair enough. Winning at the Gaelic ground's a big trick at the best of times. Murph, can Waterford pull off shocker?
No, I don't expect it now, to be honest. Limerick aren't showing any weakness. And to be honest, if you're looking at any team going up against Limerick at the moment, you're saying, where can they go at Limerick? And I know Waterford bet them in the first round. I saw someone mention that there previously, or bet them in the league. That's apples and oranges. That's something completely different here. Limerick in the Gaelic grounds, Limerick are the one team for me that just won't drop their standard. Like if a team beats them, they beat them fair and square. But Jesus, they come to the pitch of the game full of intent. So I don't think it matters of what Waterford's situation is here, that their backs are to the wall and they have to go win. Limerick are treating every game, it appears at the moment, that they have to go and win it. I know Cork bet them, fine, but their standards just keep upping and upping. So I can't see anything past Limerick.
Yeah, I see a few people pointing out just before we finish up there about Bernie Anthony Daly's been hacked, and I think Shane McGrath was as well. We're obviously not on the radar for the hackers, but I think the reason that people have been hacked, by the looks of it, is a DM doing the rounds earlier on, which was something along the lines of, if you get this, any of you later on, I'm trying to get onto a podcast or I'm trying to win some public vote, can you please vote for me here? And I reckon there's a very good chance if you open that DM, which is clearly a hack, your account's getting hacked. So I have not clicked it yet. Yeah, so we're safe, don't worry. All right, gentlemen, it's been a good one. I think the bad news is the next 2 Sundays, we can't do Sunday pods. So I may as well break this to listeners now. We will go back to doing a members pod next week on the Monday, because our own pod will be a little bit shorter and we'll do a full members pod. I know we missed the last couple of weeks, but we'll do a members pod next week. Am I right in saying we're going to do Monday?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. And we'll do Monday the week after, because you're going High Roxon as well, aren't you, Murph?
I will be. Yep, I will be. So I'll be broke up.
Is Richie Hogan going back High Roxon again?
Not at all. Not at all. Jesus Christ. You want the Order of Malta if he was going back there. So, no, he's not.
Well, he said he was going to win last year, didn't he?
He did. He said a lot of things last year, Will. And he was lucky to get on a flight out of Berlin afterwards.
Well, he did the catch, and that was the most important thing. Sunday game's about to start. It is a good time for us to head off and watch that. Before we go, I do want to remind people as well that tickets are available for our live show, which is coming up in Ulster Hall. We're going to be there with the football show. Steve McDonald's going to be there as well. It's coming up on June the 13th. You can get all the details. They're on offtheball.com/events if you want to come along and see us, particularly if you're up in the northeast of the country. Scale's laughing already. Go on.
I'm just looking at a comment there from Stockroom Tim.
Go on.
Now's your chance to give Davey abuse on Twitter and blame the hackers.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, God.
Good. Nice one, Tim.
That's a perfect way to end the pod. The Hurling Pod, even here on Off the Ball. What a flawless read on my part. The Hurling Pod and Off the Ball, with thanks to Applegreen. We're helping you relax, recharge, and enjoy the journey ahead. Paul Murphy, we'll see you next week.
Of course, you lads.
I'm not killing time to try and find the outro video here. James Skehill, we'll see you next week.
God bless.
Go on, take it easy.
The Hurling Pod
On Off the Ball.
with Applegreen, making every journey better.